Good evening. It's Monday, July 17th. This is the Westwood Board of Selectmen. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I didn't notice.
We'll grant permission to Westwood Media Center to record video and audio, record the meeting. Is there anybody else who'd like to record the meeting? Okay, thank you. Chairman's update. Our first order of business is to welcome Chief Silva and a new reserve officer, Steve Cromack. Welcome, Steve. I would embarrass you and say, tell us all about yourself, but maybe I'll just read some of it. You can add to it. How's that? Because someone did a great job. Steve Cromack is recently been sworn in as a reserve police officer for the town of Westwood. You grew up in the town of Westwood. You graduated from Westwood High School in 2007. After that, attending UMass Amherst, graduating magna cum laude with a BA in history, and Boston College, where you obtained a master's degree in secondary education and history. Glad to see you've worked as a teacher in Dedham, Needham, and Lexington. Before moving on to the school he now calls home, Lexington Christian Academy in Lexington, Mass. You were a part of the Explorer program, which is great. We're so glad to see that. So is there anything else you want to tell us? We're excited to have you, and we trust Chief Silva immensely, so his judgment means a lot.
Just humbling.
Humbling, yeah.
Even a month in, it's still to put it on the uniform with a sense of service and commitment to the town that I owe so much to, which I'm thrilled to be a part and be able to get back to it.
That's great. What grade do you teach?
Currently I teach middle school social studies,
Oh,
but I've also taught high school history. I'm trying to figure out if I want to teach middle or high.
Yeah.
So I'm in the middle school phase right now.
yeah. Well, we congratulate you. Chief, is there anything you want to add or we're missing? Or
Well, I mean, just that Steve wears a lot of hats at the police
Yeah.
department. He's quite an impressive young man, I think. He's a local Westwood resident, but he gave back. And not to say there's anything wrong with moving on, but so many times you see people move on and they start contributing to other communities, which is nice. But it's even nicer when they come right back here at home. So he contributes as a dispatcher to us. He's an advisor to our Police Explorer program, and he gets to combine his passion for teaching and his passion for law enforcement. He's worked very, very hard with Sergeant Paul Sicard, who's been doing the Explorers for a long time, to really kind of elevate the curriculum and rewrite basically all the curriculum for our Explorers. And over the past few years, we've made a considerable outreach, because it's something that I believe, and I think everybody believes in, reaching out into the community as a form of community policing. And this year, the fruit of all that labor, if you will, was a statewide first place finish for our Explorer program.
Great.
So that's in large measure due to the hard work and a lot of behind the scenes things that Steve does. So he's helping with our youth, he's helping the residents when he's working in the call center and dispatch, and now he's helping the community when he's out on the road as a police officer. So
That's
very proud.
I mean, it's great to see an explorer kind of fulfill that career goal. I think at all the events we have at Westwood Day and the Memorial Day Parade and everything else, and the tree lighting, it's great to see that group of young people kind of really being engaged and involved. So thanks, Steve. We're excited to have you.
Congratulations, Steve.
Yeah, welcome. It's become so highly endorsed by the chief, which, as John said, really means a lot. And really, for your leadership for the young people is fabulous. And we hope that it leads to further recruitment and more people getting involved. So, welcome.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Very good. Thanks for coming in tonight. Good night.
Right. The second piece of the chairman's update is further work around the Complete Streets grant. We have recently received another grant of $175,000 for the Complete Streets program funding. This funding will be put towards the reconstruction of the intersection of 109 and North Street, so near Bubbling Brook. Mike?
Yes.
Checking that,
Yep.
okay. And improvements to the sidewalk eastbound on 109 from North to Stanford. So a huge improvement.
Right.
I see people trying to cross there all the time, and it's not good. Okay, well that's great, and I will say I've received a lot of comments from folks who live in the streets off of 109, so they now can walk down to the sidewalk and kind of get to different neighborhoods.
In the intersection by Sheehan School.
Yeah.
That's so good to have narrowing the opening onto Pond Street and the island work. It's just really well done. And early
Yeah.
in the season.
Quick.
Really.
Well, I think they had to spend it by June.
First.
Get it all done, and it was just,
I just had two other quick pieces. I attended the Mass Municipal Association meeting last week on kind of some experts talking about Chapter 40B. We should take a lot of credit. We're far ahead of a lot of our. We weren't mentioned, but
We are
when-
far ahead.
No, we are doing a lot better than I think a lot of sister municipalities. And I think what's happening as the cost of real estate has gotten so exponentially higher, these larger scale developments are moving further and further away from Boston. So towns that never had to deal with a large scale development now have folks walking in saying, we'll do 40B. So it was interesting to hear municipalities who really had minimal exposure.
And I will just add to that, we need to keep our eye on the ball, right, Nora? Because we could be a few houses, a few units short of the 10%, which would expose us all over again. Canton had 1 unit short a few years ago, and they got an unfriendly, and they had to deal with it.
So that's 2020, right? We've got a.
2020.
Okay. And this morning, we had the groundbreaking at University Station for the new Brigham facility. Very well attended. It was a nice reception. So we look forward to the Brigham's project. I think they said the fall of 18? September of 18,
Yeah,
so about
lovely.
14 months. So that was great. That's it for the chairman's update.
Yeah, the only other thing that you might want to mention is that the town was never at risk with the water department.
Okay.
Yeah, some people misunderstood, or
Yeah.
we were afraid that that announcement was going to raise some concerns by people, and really, the water was switched over to MWRA water. I think they're still working on it. I haven't heard that they've addressed the problem fully, but even the water quality that was coming out, even though it tested positive as raw water,
Right.
it was treated and was never at risk.
Right, so that was the water samples coming in to the plant, but the
Right.
water samples on the other side going to the residences, tested clean.
Tested clean. But then they shut off those water sources and switched over to MWRA while they correct the problem.
So we are fortunate that we rely on town wells, municipal wells in Dedham and Westwood. We do have connections to the MWRA, and we get supplemented anytime.
Yes.
Did Eileen from the Dedham Westwood Water District receive many calls subsequent to her?
I haven't checked. I haven't talked to Eileen since she sent out the messages. So I don't know. I'll talk. I meant to talk to her
It would
today.
be
and I
nice
didn't
to
get a
know, but I
chance.
think I think she had a very effective message, and I think she was very clear in it, so hopefully.
The reason why I'm bringing it up is we got a couple of calls,
Mhm.
and people were a little confused, and then we corrected them and said no, that there isn't a risk, and
Yeah, good.
Anything else?
that's it.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on to Ms. Dukeman, FY17 Year End.
So we are in the process of closing out our fiscal 2017.
Right.
This week and next, we'll be able to go forward and complete that. We do have one item, final item, that we need the Board of Selectmen to take action on, and that is, as part of our year-end close, to close out our records with the municipal budget, is to do one additional transfer from your reserve account, and that is for $76,000 to the police salary account. The police overtime account this year, we've been monitoring. We did do one previous supplement at town meeting, and we do need one additional one to complete this. There were 3 long-term injury this year, and those are replaced with overtime to fill that vacancy. Those are all now completed, and there are no current long-term leave. We also had an additional retirement late in the year, in May, and as you know, that requires kind of a payout of any accumulated time, including vacation time. I will point out that 2 things changed for FY18. One is that the way we budgeted now for our public safety departments at this year's town meeting, we have a higher appropriation level. So this year, with some of our police funds, would be closing out $30,000 to free cash. Next year, if we had the same situation, we wouldn't be asking for the $76,000 supplement. We would have been able to apply that $30,000. We're not able to do that in 17, but that is a change that we made for FY18. The second change is that we did increase the overtime budget for FY18 by about $115,000. So those two changes are in place for FY18.
Okay, so that was my question when I had emailed you. So the long-term leaves are over. So there's no the leave of absences that were driving the overtime. All three are now regular full-time staff. Okay,
Nobody's out on injured leave.
right, okay.
Not right now, knock on wood.
I know.
That can change while we're here.
And then the retirement. So I guess what I was trying to understand was, we started out the beginning of last year and police overtime was anticipated to be $183,000.
So that was our budgeted overtime.
Yeah.
And so we have, we did share with the board kind of a 5-year look at our overtime. Sometimes with the overtime needs, if it's coming from replacing someone out on injury leave, we're paying the officer on an injury leave as well as replacement.
The backfill. Yeah.
When it's because of a vacancy, there is, we're not paying out a salary, so we have those funds. And you can see by our history, we often have that, as we did in the current year. So we may be over in the overtime account, but we have surplus funding in the base salary account because of a vacancy. And often it nets out very close. Sometimes we do require a supplement, and this is one of the years that we do.
And so going forward, we created the flexibility to, if there's an overage in overtime but an underage in office supplies, the chief and you can swing that.
Yes, we've never had that before, what we put in place for FY18.
Okay.
But you would still come through the Board of Selectmen just to notify us so we can approve it.
We would notify you, we put that in our monthly budget to actual report. It's just that we wouldn't require any action between the chief and the police salary and expense accounts, but also the other departments that the chief is in charge of. Traffic supervisor.
So I guess my other question then, PM, was where did we come up with the figure of 115 going forward?
That's what we, were able
that the
to
historical
provide.
trend?
It's close to the historical trend.
Absent the 3 leave of absences?
Yes.
Okay. I think I'm good. Was that something that you?
No?
So Pam, the actions we need to take tonight are the transfer of the $76,000 and the approval to the individual departments for University Station. And was there one more you said?
Yes, I do need you to do the transfer tonight. The University Station budget you could do tonight or at your next meeting, either way, but.
I mean, honestly, I'd rather do it tonight.
Sure. So we laid that out. That was the money that we had put aside in that budget at town meeting, and with your transfer, that would now be allocated to the police and fire departments. And we would have those funds in those departments as they come forth to you to ask for filling of vacancies and positions. The funding would be there.
Okay.
So those 2 actions we need
Yes.
tonight.
So, all right, so the overtime is my first question. I'm fine. That's based on historical trend. And then we are approving, what else, Pam?
At the bottom of that page there.
Bottom of page 8.
The allocation of the $570,000 that was budgeted at the Maytown meeting for
Okay.
the police and fire
You had
departments.
just said it would come back to the Board of Selectmen for
It
subsequent
takes the Board of
approval.
Selectmen action to allocate that to the police and fire.
Okay, so with this approval tonight, are we going to go out and recruit 2 officers and 4 firefighters?
They still need to come to you to, get those
Okay.
positions released and then the hiring, but this would give the funding for it.
And we're hiring some new folks right now. So how many are you in the process of onboarding right now?
So it's now 5, because 2 are leaving to go to the state police in August. 2 are for growth to address some of the demand for University Station, and 1 is that retirement that Pam mentioned. So it's 5 bodies in the aggregate. which will probably be staggered, for a couple of reasons.
Yep.
One, you can't really get academy seating for those people. You know, find some people that have training already. And then two, it's tough to onboard 5 people simultaneously for field training and so forth.
So are
that's-
you doing those 5 and then these are 2 additional?
No, those are part
So
of
it's
those.
3 plus
It's
2,
3
okay.
plus those 2.
And are we in the process of hiring any firefighters right now? Or is this-
We were kind of waiting for the
New chief, right?
new
Oh, the
chief.
new chief.
And he's in the process of recruiting.
For how many spots? Because I thought some we were gonna leave
Four.
for the
So
new
4
chief.
plus.
But he's recruiting a pool from which he can draw. He hasn't
Right.
decided whether it's gonna be 2 or 4.
Okay. Okay, I'm doing fine.
Okay, ready for motions? Okay, I'll do them separately. So I move that we approve a transfer of $76,000 to the police salary account from the Board of Selectmen reserve account, which presently has a balance of $87,000.
I'll second.
Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none?
And next I move that we approve the budgeted amounts as a transfer to individual department budgets as designated in a chart, and I'll just summarize it. For the police department, it would be a total of $225,000. For the fire department, a total of $345,000 for an aggregate amount of $570,000.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay, we are going to move on to the Westwood Estate Roadway alterations.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Thank you.
Nora?
Is there anyone here?
Just Nora.
Oh, you did? Is that what those were? I can go.
I don't know that we need to.
Yeah.
I don't know, we need to-
No, I don't,
Okay.
I don't think
Is
so.
there anybody here in the audience about this? No, okay.
I think you have copies in your packets, but.
We do, yes.
You do, but
Yeah,
yeah.
mini copies.
Drawing's easier to see.
We have mini copies.
I brought my reading glasses just for this very reason, Mark.
I didn't, I lost one.
You want to borrow them?
But these show colored in, so you can see what's shown in green is the outline of the existing right-of-way and the outline of the new right-of-way. And then the purple is just showing the areas that are going to be paved. The old Hedgrow lane intersected with Canton Street at nearly the exact same location where the new Hedgrow lane is going to intersect, but the new Hedgrow will veer north as it comes in off of Canton Street. So the old Hedgrow will not be used as a roadway anymore. However, the developer did not ask to have that, the town's interest in the right-of-way released, because doing so would make at least 2 of the 3 lots that have frontage on it be non-conforming lots, because they would not have sufficient frontage on the new road. Because of the bulb of the cul-de-sac is used to give them extra feet of frontage.
Right.
If they came straight into the new through street, they would not have the right amount of frontage. So what the proposal does is change it into a grassed area and extend the driveways across the right-of-way of the cul-de-sac into the right-of-way of the new roadway. We've done similar reconstructions at other locations. I know there's one proposed for Morgan Farm. I'm not sure if it's been complete yet or if that's in the last stage of the project. But the old, you might remember Morgan Farm Road had a bulb at the end of it where that ended as a cul-de-sac. It was extended and that bulb is to be removed and replaced with grass.
Nora, has anybody notified their landscapers that suddenly the frontage is now going to be football field long?
It's my understanding that the developer has been talking to them, but yeah, most homes in town, the front of their lawn is within the public right-of-way, and they treat it as if it's their own, so I would expect the same thing to happen here.
Yeah,
But
so
it is an
that-
unusual shape.
That's what I was kind of wondering, like, what's the maximum, I mean, I guess in one way it's nice we're adding green space, but what is the maximum distance at someone's home? Are we looking at like the width of a street?
So their driveways
The
get
middle one.
considerably longer, especially the first
middle
one.
Yeah.
The first one, you can see their driveway now kind of comes down and then goes back up
Oh, yeah, yeah.
to the roadway. The center one gets extended. The home that's closest to Canton Street does not experience much of a change.
So, Nora, why did he, I was just looking at it, I'm like, why did he bow it out so far? Any idea? I mean, is it the first one?
Probably to make the shortest possible road. Staying to the right instead of, if he came to the left and then curved to the right to go back on the property and lay out the lots properly, the road would have been even longer. So my guess is it's an attempt to have the road itself shorter, but result in longer driveways.
So do we have any comments or concerns from the residents that this is gonna happen to?
We didn't hear any concerns. This was the subject of planning board hearings. The hearings actually went on for just about a year, I believe.
Right.
They were continued many times. We had a lot of area residents who attended the hearings, mostly residents of the Lions Drive homes, though I don't believe we had any testimony from any of these residents. But they were aware of the project, they were aware of the hearings, and they've received notice of all of the proceedings. And in fact, the developer has submitted a proposal to add another roadway off of this development, which the planning board reviewed as a preliminary subdivision and denied it. It's coming back, I expect, as a definitive subdivision. But I don't believe any of these residents even spoke out in that application,
So,
so.
I mean, I'm just wondering, why wouldn't they have at least something to say, yes or no, or we like it, we don't like it? It just seems odd that,
They haven't said anything about it. Maybe it doesn't seem like much of a difference to them. I'm not really sure. I haven't spoken to any of these other residents. Are you interested in obtaining their input, or?
I would
They
be
haven't
just,
reached out to
There's a piece of me
us.
that says that, somebody's got to, they're gonna have a lot of green grass in front of their house that nobody is technically responsible for.
I mean, that's,
I don't think we're gonna get.
I don't think we're sending the DPW down, but if they decide not to take care of it, saying that's not our space, maybe they like the long driveway, I don't know, that adds a little credibility to the, we have the long driveway.
Plow guy like.
Exactly.
Well, there's really two steps. You need to clean this up.
We need to remove the pavement
You need to remove the pavement.
so that it's clear what the direction of
So
travel is.
we could give direction subject to some sort of engagement with the neighbors.
Yeah, I think they'd probably tell the developer, look, you're gonna meet with the neighbors and figure out what they wanna do with this, and you gotta satisfy. It could be that they plant in between.
Well, that's what I was kind
Exactly,
of
so the
thinking.
plant
Shrubs
right
and stuff
now
like
is
that.
loam and seed, but it doesn't have to be. It
Yeah.
could be planted, or it could be natural.
Because I think if you look at this, if this was all loamed and seeded, who of those three landowners is really responsible for the grass? And
I'd say they'd all
Oh.
take responsibility for the portion around their driveway, and it would probably grow to a natural
length, yeah.
bush in the center, on
Yeah.
the part that they don't maintain.
Right. So, I mean, I'd like to get the neighbors' input, at least that they've seen this and say yes or no, or, I mean, before we take that, and I just think it makes sense for the neighbors.
Is that okay?
That's
can send
fine.
them-
We can
so it's- I think
send
it's
them a
4
letter.
residences, right?
Three.
Three.
Three
Just send them a
homes.
letter for our next meeting.
Sure, and ask them to send in their comments or
We have
attend.
good news and we have bad
I think
news.
I think your answer is exactly right, that this guy does his lawn right here, this guy does the middle one, and this guy does the edge.
And maybe some of it doesn't get cut at all and turns to meadow.
Well, that's what I guess. I guess if they said just put large trees or something, could we get the developer? to do
Yeah,
that?
well, that would be between them and the developer to put trees and brush and shrubs and treat it that way.
So we'll defer to the next meeting?
Sure.
Is that
okay?
plan of action? Are you okay with that?
That's perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you, Nora.
Sean, can you let Nancy know what time? Ms. Banks, want to join us? Looks like you've got all sorts of good news.
I hope so. Hi. This is Paul Aries, Recreation
Sorry, can
Commission.
you just give Nancy Hyde 1 second?
Sure, yeah.
She's on her way.
Welcome back.
Hey, Paul.
Hi, how are you?
Well,
Excellent.
sorry, Nicole, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to thank the board tonight for allowing us to have the tennis court and athletic courts reviewed on your agenda. As you know, we have been having some conversations in the community about the court surfaces that are overdue for resurfacing. Given this state and also some other items in town, such as the Sheehan courts, that need to be redone, and the recent removal of the Islington Court. The Recreation Department has been working on engaging the community to develop a comprehensive plan, and that's what we would like to present to you this evening. We're seeking your input on the plan and options as they're put forward. I definitely want to thank the residents who've been involved in this process. We have quite a few residents who came out to our public meetings and also who have shared their commentary through emails to us. The Recreation Commission as well has spent countless hours reviewing this and bringing it to the point that we're ready to propose it here tonight. And also want to thank the school department and their staff who have been supportive in these efforts, contributing their input as well, and other town departments that we've worked with, including DPW, Community Development, IT, and the admin team.
That's great.
So, in addition to refurbishing the courts, the proposal that's in front of you includes options that would expand the current tennis play. Those would be options including adding new courts, adding pickleball lining, installing hitting walls, and lighting of courts. The options are all presented a la carte with pricing estimates attached to those, which vary across the board, and so these projects can be done sequentially, or concurrently. So that's something that we can work on, and I'm happy to answer any questions along with Paul about how the process has been. And
You obviously did a lot of work, and my suggestion would be, and this is great. I was hoping the Sheehan School would be the first one.
they're all on here. They're all options.
That's the pickleball option.
What I was just going to suggest is we just kind of go through them.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
Is there
absolutely.
anybody here this evening with commentary? Okay. Which particular piece?
High school.
High school, okay.
Well, excuse me, that's not necessarily because it's all kind of grouped together.
Okay, so as we go through them, just raise your hand, okay? We're going to go through them line by line.
I'd like to speak after, would that be
Sure,
okay? If you
yep,
don't mind?
afterwards,
Thank
yep. Okay, so the Westwood High School, WHS Downey Court refurbishment?
Yep, so the first item on here is proposing the court resurfacing, and that's what we are really in very critical need of doing some work on. The recommendation for court resurfacing is 8 to 10 years for commercial courts, and we are well past that deadline, and have been looking and reviewing our options. It was just a matter of pulling together which courts need to have work and what we want to do at all of these courts to be able to expend some of the funding to go back into resurfacing those. So the first two options that you see are the court resurfacing. That includes the 6 courts at the high school. Adding a hitting wall to that court. Something that came up for all the courts is that it would be really a great amenity to have a hitting wall there. So if you are by yourself and don't have a partner to play with, that you can utilize that option for practice. And
So knowing nothing about tennis. So on just one of the fence walls, you put some sort of
Yes.
ball return wall?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So you would do that in one of the courts?
It would probably be on just one court and would be an option available if there was a single player who didn't have a partner or wasn't going to do doubles, and it would have a backboard and a line height that would be representing the net, so that you could make your serves and practice that way.
You used to have one in Islington, right?
Yes.
Yes. Morrison Park.
Yes. The boys
had one. Yeah.
Yeah, I never saw that one, but
Okay.
but yeah, so that came up through all of our conversation. Fence repairs, I do need to work with the high school on that option. There was some repair done this year because that fence was in quite bad shape and needed it sooner than later. But if there is more work that needs to be done, it wouldn't be replacing fence, it would be just the structure of the fence.
And how many courts are there at the Downey School?
2.
The Downey has 2 courts.
And you would put a hitting wall there as well?
And again, we would also, advise putting a hitting wall there.
Okay.
So I suppose the only question I have about the hitting walls, sound, do they
We
now?
had that discussion at some of our meetings, and there was recommendations that there's some newer materials that are just kind of gather the sound in and don't let it out as much. So we can do some research on what that is. And
Will
what
that change the
is for
pricing
that.
potentially?
I believe we've put enough price in here to do that type of a
To absorb the cost.
to absorb the cost of the sound absorption.
Okay. So there's a proposed action for each of these.
Yeah,
Can
so
I
that's
suggest
the
that we-
first action. item with a
Relax.
separate
That's
action.
for
Yeah.
tonight, yeah, that's the number.
Oh, that's it for tonight. Okay.
Yeah,
And
so an identified funding source being put forward for that and looking to try to move forward with that as soon as possible. We do know that last winter, when we came out of the winter, we had some major crack repair again that we had to do. We've done that for the past 2 years. These are fixes that we're really just trying to continue to use the courts. It does impact the school team because, of course, we find that in the spring and we have to, get on schedule to get
Right.
that repaired, and that's when the construction companies are out doing this everywhere. So, for example, this last year, I think it took a couple of days to get the fix done and dried properly before they could use it again.
So Nicole, how long does it, I see they want to do it at the end of August, how long does it take? Any idea for the whole court to be replaced?
I mean, the resurfacing would be a day project. They would need to pick a day that had the right weather conditions, come out and do it, and then there would be a drying period. They may come back and do the lining the next day, so they may do the anti-skid material, get the paint down, let that dry, and then come back and put the border lines on.
So you're talking less than a week?
So, yeah, definitely less than a
Alright.
week.
Just curious. Okay.
I'm okay. You?
Yep.
Mike, the recommendation is that there are resources we have in the antenna account, the one at Morrison. What is the, how much money is available in that account?
The last time we got a lease, and I believe it was $225 for the last lease we got, and I think we had some residual funds left, so we have over $225 in that account right now for whatever we need. We have already committed some of that money to the Little League for bathrooms to be added to their snack
right,
shack when
right.
they're going to do that. The estimate is under $50,000, so we're talking $175 just on the last lease of funds that are available. So if you appropriate $100,000 for this purpose, they'd leave another $75.
So in general, we try to use the money from that antenna account for the immediate area.
That's right.
So the exception to that would be if we use some for the high school.
Yeah. Well,
It's a comparable use and
yeah.
it's
We
it's an
do-
available resource.
The light, I'll give you an example at the high school. The lights that are at the stadium field were paid for from that same
Yeah.
account. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
So it's
light-
been put towards recreation,
It has been.
which is somewhat consistent as well. I'm just looking for the
Mm-hmm.
connections here of the funds, and they happen to be available for us to direct.
To appropriate, that's correct. That's one of the very few items
Right.
where you have the authority to appropriate those funds.
Do you see us missing other opportunities by doing this, or is this nothing else rises to?
Nothing else rises to the occasion, and I think the thing that needs to be stressed that was pointed out is there's a perfect 2-week period in August,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of August, where recreation isn't using those
And
courts.
before the
Very
school.
few people are in town to use the courts. There's no school activities on those courts. It is the perfect opportunity.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah, and
disrupt
so if we can,
use too much, yeah.
and since those are available funds, the only other way you can get funds to do this would be to go to a town meeting, and that's in November, and then that's gonna get complicated.
So we have been talking about these needs before, and we were somewhat holding off. Maybe we didn't know the impact of the past winter on the high school courts, because I remember going to look at them in the fall, and I only saw one side of one of the courts that looked like it needed cracks to be addressed. But you're saying it got worse after the winter?
Yeah, the crack we had after this past winter was wide enough that your entire foot could go into it. So that's, if you have
Doesn't help
small
flavor much,
cracks
does it?
that aren't filled and resurfaced properly and the water gets in,
Yeah, it
it
just
can
starts-
really be quite a lot extensive damage after a winter here. So
So you
that's
just
what we
patched
saw
it,
this
but
year.
it's just a patch and a patch.
It is, and we didn't do all of the smaller cracks that are still in there. So this full resurfacing would do all of the small cracks, seal those. Any larger cracks would be sealed the same way that large crack was, with a filler material, and then like a bonding agent over the top, and then resurfaced over that.
Okay.
And that's what we did for the larger crack. So they'll, would inspect it for all of that and do all that, and do the smaller cracks, and then put the top seal coat on, which is both protective and anti-skid for when you're playing, that it's not too slippery.
And the Downey courts are used just recreationally?
Yes, yes.
The high school doesn't use it
No,
for
the
any
school
purpose.
may use it some for their education program during the day, just outside gym use, but not a lot. It's mostly just a neighborhood. We have run some programming over there, mostly if it's part of another program running. We've had the tennis instructor go over and teach over there if we have an after-school program or something like that. But mostly a neighborhood kind of community use court.
Are you planning to do these back-to-back so that for the tennis players that are in town, that one court might be open while the other one is being resurfaced?
That sounds like a reasonable thing.
Yeah, I think
only
that
takes
would
a
be,
week.
yeah,
You got
and
2 weeks.
it's really, it's not going to be that long. It's a couple days doing them, let it dry, so while one's drying, they could prep the other one, clean it, and get it
I'm
ready.
just thinking for those that are here that might want to play.
Right,
Because I
would
think
have-
those are the only 2 courts in town now, right?
Yeah, so we have a total of 8 courts, and that's the
Right.
6 at the high school and 2 at Downey.
Okay.
Yep.
Not that I play, but.
So that's the first item, and that's the one that we're really looking to be able to move forward with right away. The next set of proposals here is things that we have conducted our research on, opened it up to the community, and we feel have community support and input that would like to see some of these options happen, would like to have tennis play improved, and some of the other, we also have a basketball court at Morrison that's in the mix here as well, in addition to tennis. And so these are ones that we would be looking for, reviewing. If there was support in the community for moving these forward, then we would look at bringing that forward as a capital project to one of our future town meetings. So the first one on the list is the Sheehan Court redevelopment. So, John, it's kind of first on the list.
And I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Dear to my heart.
Yeah, this
sitting
is
there
an
for a
area
long
that
time.
we've known needs to be dealt with. This has been a matter of just trying to put together a plan. There's been a few options that have surfaced over the past couple of years, and with the location that it is being right next to the fields and right next to the school, we just wanted to make sure it was a use that was put there that would be a nice addition of recreation for the neighborhood, but also wouldn't conflict with the school day and parking that would have to go on there. So through these input sessions that were primarily focused on tennis, but what came up over and over again was the mention of pickleball. And this is something that it's not something that has been a huge item in New England, but it is slowly creeping in, and there are many towns surrounding us that are starting to put courts in place or mark their courts that are existing. And the other thing that came up quite often through the public input sessions was that it would be nice to have something that had a couple of uses. And so the tennis and pickleball is something that can be played on the same court surface. And so that was an option that the Recreation Commission liked based on the input.
Well, I think the other thing too there is that it creates a multi-use facility, and it creates a facility that we can, as a recreation department, build programming around. I know my sister lives in Newton, and they have a pickleball program through the recreation department, and I think it could be a revenue generator. And I actually, 2 of my sisters, both retired, but they all play pickleball, and I had the same reaction as you did. I had never heard of it, and now every time I turn around, it comes up. But I think we can build programming around a use like that.
I mean, it would be great to see programming there. There is parking, Right now, it seems so desolate.
Yep.
It's a weed growing.
Todd
location.
weed whacked last week. I had to thank him for that. Now it's just cracks. There's no more weeds.
Weeds will come back.
Temporarily, right? Yeah.
So you don't need any action from us on that.
No, I think these are for your consideration.
Okay.
Certainly, if you see, if you want to have a discussion about it, if you have questions, if you need any further information, I think what we would like to see is a recommendation from you in the future. And, on these options, what would we like to move forward with? And, what would the timing be for putting that together for?
I also think these need to go through long-range planning, as other capital requests do, where we can look at it relative to the other requests coming forward.
And these have all been in the capital plan and have been presented for, I believe, the last 3 years, not in as much detail as this. So we're now getting to the point of having more detail. We have cost estimates, and we're ready to put forward, actual ideas for what the recreation.
Yeah, I mean, what I would
is.
suggest is the board, maybe at next month's meeting, can give you some feedback, if any. But ultimately, we're policy making. We're not going to make the recommendation.
Yep.
My expectation would be, Mike, that it would come from you guys. and we'll give you some input. The other option at the Sheehan, and I like this, but you had talked at one point about just resurfacing it to make it just a multi-purpose, multi-use field for
Yeah, we talked about expanding the field area there, and I think that that's, something that is an option for that space. The soccer mainly uses that site, and they use right up to the edge of the fencing. You'd get another maybe mini field
You wouldn't
or
even get a full field.
So you wouldn't really be expanding the use. You'd just be giving them a little bit more space.
Right.
I think that conversation, although we would support field development, we really felt like that could be a loss for the community
Oh,
and
no, I think
having
it's a loss,
another
yeah.
recreation opportunity there. The other thing that we like about the pickleball is it does expand the age groups that can use it.
Right.
And that's something that a lot of tennis players are starting to use pickleball, once they can't do the movements
Those
or the
knees
running
are going,
around.
huh?
It's a smaller court and just a different level of play, but still quite interesting and active and a lot of fun.
Okay. Westwood High School court lighting. Install
Yes.
perimeter LED lighting for 6 tennis courts. So is there any lighting at the high school now?
There is no lighting for the tennis courts, and there is actually now no lighted tennis courts in town. And so the single court in Islington was a lit court. Previously, that was a double court that was lit. So that was kind of a transition as that was utilized for other space needs, was that we did have that loss to the community. And of course, that is one of the options to consider as well. But what we reviewed and took a look at, we reviewed looking at putting lighting at Downey, the high school, and the potential of rebuilding at Islington. The recommendation is to light the courts at the high school for a few reasons, because that is a main sport complex. We do have parking availability. We have 6 courts versus 1 or 2 courts at the other 2 sites. So if you show up in the evening to play tennis and the court is not available, you don't have to wait to play. You can utilize a different court. The reasons for the other courts not being recommended, Downey was really viewed as kind of a neighborhood court, not as convenient to get to for as much of the population, not as much traffic going through there and not as much activity going on at that site. And then Islington, the option that we have for rebuilding a tennis court there is for a single court. And so again, limitations on parking, the size of the park that's available, and then just having the one court lit versus having the option of multiple courts that could be lit.
But did having the prior Islington court lit help expand its use
Yes.
into the evening?
Yeah, we did have the lights on there, and those courts did get some evening use. Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I was in the other night at the high school, and it was getting to be dusk, and all 6 courts were being used. So, especially the courts at the high school are very, very high use. I think the thing for the lighting is that, as a community, the feedback was that would expand the offering for many people. Just being able to get out onto the courts and use them in the evenings would be a benefit. We also heard from the high school tennis team that in the spring they would utilize the lights. So that was also something for them that they would be able to use. The site with the high school kind of made the most sense for all of those reasons.
My thing would be, it's much safer at the high school than it would be in the Downey neighborhood anyway. It's kind of,
It's a
you'd have
little
to
bit more
park in the
tucked
back.
in. Yeah,
Right.
it's
Kind
a
of-
little bit more of
yeah.
a neighborhood out of
Right.
sight. You'd be drawing, attracting more visitors, where the high school already has those visitors, already has lighted athletic facilities going on.
And parking right in front of it, so.
And parking right there, that's also lighted parking.
Right.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of discussion within the Recreation Commission about trying to get them back at Morrison Park and what opportunities were there with the DPW shed and everything. And we just felt like it was going to be too crowded within that area to try to get something over there. And that it would probably be useful and increase the safety of Morrison Park by making additional parking areas and things that can be put into that area for the activities. It's a jewel of the town, and I think it's going to get more and more.
But we
use.
made a commitment to the
Yes, we
Islington
did.
community that we would replicate that court.
So,
Well, I think
We
we need to, yeah, right. I think we need to talk about the future, though, and what makes sense.
Get the commitment.
So, okay, so that's the lighting details, okay. And so the other piece you need us to consider then too is what we
Yes.
do with Morrison.
So that brings us to Morrison Park, which is, been discussed for a while, and there are some needs there. And I think, really kind of, we need to, at this point, take a look at that park and how that's going to be utilized going forward. It is a different footprint than it was prior to the fire station going in. And it is a very, very busy, well-utilized area. So we do have the basketball court that is currently there. That's sort of the last piece that currently exists that needs to be brought up to an improved condition. Again, that is overdue for resurfacing, and we'd like to replace the fencing there. The fencing we'd recommend would match the black vinyl fencing that's in the other areas to match the aesthetic of that and sort of finish off that. The Snack Shack project is being brought forward by the Little League, so that's going to be another, a little bit larger of a structure there, but trying to better utilize the space for public convening. I think the biggest thing for us, like Paul said, is just how saturated that park was before, and what it's going to look like and be utilized for, for the crowds that are drawn for Little League. We know that there's a parking shortage in general in that area, and also, trying to look for areas in that section of town that are green space, open space, and not all, fully constructed. So that's what we'd like to see for that park.
So Nicole, when I'm looking at, I think it's the last page of your presentation with the bullets.
Yep.
So the first bullet is, the first plan entails demolishing auxiliary building, repositioning basketball court to make room for tennis court. This plan requires constructing a court over an easement, reposition and rebuild the basketball and tennis. How many tennis courts would we get out of this process? We'd get one tennis court
A single court,
for
yes.
$605,000.
We'll get the basketball redone.
Yeah, the next
Yes.
page.
It includes
has a
rebuilding,
picture of it.
demolishing and rebuilding the
Rebuilding the
basketball
basketball
court and resituating. So you should have
So I
a
have sticker
diagram.
shock.
Yeah. I'd say that was pretty
Well,
on
600
target with
To be
with my
honest,
commission.
you're getting three things, so we're clear.
Getting
You're getting a
lights.
basketball court, you're getting a
Lights.
tennis court, and you're
Well, we
getting
have a
lights.
basketball court.
No, but you have to replace the basketball court.
We have to
So
replace it anyway.
Getting a new one.
You're getting a new one. So that's why it costs that much.
Yeah,
That's-
so-
That's the point.
And if we were doing this at your home, you'd,
No, I'm just making the
Yeah.
point that.
So the survey,
It's not just the tennis court, you're getting,
well, we're
Maybe.
only moving those other things to make room for a tennis
that's
court.
right. No, that's fair.
yeah, so we did a few things. So we asked the designer to come in and survey for us, so we would be able to say for sure what actually fit. Because when we started this conversation, we felt like it might fit, but we weren't really sure. And we also had the MBTA project going on, and we wanted to make sure there wasn't going to be an impact there. So we researched that as well. The surveying of the land, I mean, you see the diagram here. It is a tight space, and you end up with needing to relay out everything. It does require a retaining wall, so it is going to be far back toward where the tracks are. And we do have commitment from the MBTA project plans that this easement would be allowed to have a tennis court built there.
Can I ask a question though? So we have 2 courts at Downey that we're about to redo.
Right,
We have 6 courts at the high school that we're about to redo in light.
yeah.
What other courts do we have?
Well, so if we redo the Sheehan courts, we would have 2 courts there.
Okay.
And that's it. So the second part of what we looked at here, this was the only option surveyed at Morrison that could fit a tennis court. We also reviewed 2 other sites that we have a GIS layout here of just showing you what the specs would be for a full-size tennis court to have a single court. The first site is the School Street Playground, and that would include putting the tennis court over the T-ball field. That was
And where you
the
putting
least
T-ball? Then where you putting
desirable,
T-ball?
because that's an actively used field,
Right.
yeah. So
As
that
a T-ball
was.
coach, I will tell you, I like the field.
I know, and we knew this, but we wanted to be
Yeah.
able to show you all the options.
Sit there too.
And then the other one was to look at the Hanlon School fields and laying out a tennis court on that site. And it fits.
But we haven't talked to the schools at all about that option.
I have
right?
showed these options. I showed the Hanlon to the school, but no, it hasn't had full review.
You show it to.
I showed it to Heath Petracca.
And what
So
was his reaction?
Heath has been the school representative named for kind of reviewing all of
My other
the,
problem with the Hanlon site though is this potential for building.
and that's the thing.
I'm sure he
Yeah,
expressed that.
I mean, exactly. The plans are unknown.
Yeah, totally
You
unknown.
you could get into a situation of you build it and several years down the line it needs to be changed.
That wouldn't happen,
I
would
wouldn't
it?
know what that would look like.
Never happened before.
Nicole, if I'm not mistaken, in our conversations, we would still, as a town, meet the per capita number of tennis courts per
Yeah, so
citizen, per
there's some recommendations
population.
nationally that are averages for communities in the community our size. The 8 that we currently have meet and even exceed a little bit
Yeah.
the standards.
When you had your public
So-
meetings, so did you have people who spoke regarding replicating the Islington Court?
We had one person who spoke to that, and that is recorded in our minutes of that meeting. Yes.
Reminded us that we,
Promised.
Yeah, and I mean,
that's okay.
and
I
I
guess-
understand that, and
Well,
we
it's still
also
gotta go to town meeting.
So if it
vote.
costs us $5 million, I mean, can we be practical for a minute?
well, I think we, you know,
$600,000 for a tennis court. Sorry, you lost me at
Well,
600.
but it was considered really part of the project cost for the fire
Correct.
station.
Yeah.
Cost of
Yeah,
getting,
and I
obtaining
can
that
understand
site.
that. I mean, we run the recreation department. We certainly don't want to see any loss of recreation services for the community. I think we're just trying
10
to see,
courts.
for that price, is there any other way that we can provide tennis and even increase our play? And, you know, the Recreation Commission's review is just that we can maybe spend the money a little bit wiser and utilize it for some of the court surfaces that do need work, do need repair, get us on track for, you know, hopefully at
So
this
be
point
responsible
having
with
a...
taxpayer money, in other words?
Well, I mean, and I don't want to say that it's irresponsible. I mean, I think it's the community needs to speak on this. I think there's feelings both ways. I understand, you know, I've definitely heard a lot of feedback that it's important to have recreation services in different parts of the community. So I think the Hanlon option and looking at making improvements at Downey were also a way for us to try to answer that call. And
Do we have an estimate on the Hanlon?
so if we did a post-tension concrete court, the cost would be approximately $90,000 to build a single court.
Who controls
In
that
Hanlon?
Yeah.
School department. So we'd have to get their permission.
But I think when we built the Girl Scout house, though, we recognized that no future project would impact that site.
Other side?
So I do wonder if we could.
Well, that
carve out
was
safe
because of the
space.
way it was, that was
You know what I mean?
configured. And it all depends on where they're proposing to build the school. There's a 35-acre parcel in
To
the
the
back,
left, that's right.
in the back to the left, yeah. to
You're
the
looking at
left
the
of
school, to the left.
It's to the left and then the back. It's the wooded area in the back. It's called the Shuttleworth parcel.
So again, this level of detail has not gone to long-range planning, and so, you know, that may be an area where they could take a look at that, and, you know, if
Do you
there
think
was
you
a
could talk
comfort
to
level
Heath, though,
there.
and just say, is there like a segment that they don't
The
ever
school does
foresee it?
not know.
Don't wanna
No,
get
there
into
was
it.
no feedback like that. You know, his input just on looking at this was that they wouldn't be against reviewing this, but I don't think they'd be in a situation to make any promises about where that plan is. I think it's,
Okay.
you know,
But I
very,
think-
very much early on in the process.
But I think
So-
based on even if they were to do it, they'd have to pretty much take out the basketball court, the tot lot, and the baseball field, based on where we're putting the tennis court. It would be pretty much, the
Actually,
buffer
it's in-
would be,
In between
they
the
wouldn't
three,
be.
I think, isn't it?
You have the picture?
Yeah, so,
exactly.
I mean, laying it out, again, we haven't had this surveyed, but I don't think we would lose any space. That diamond, you know, isn't used by the older kids, so it's,
Little League.
yeah, and the way that the ball is gonna fly there isn't gonna head in that direction, so it kind of tucks it in with the
Flying isn't the
basketball
issue.
court. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, if they make it past the, into the dirt area.
Well, yeah, of all the fields, it's kind of.
So then why don't we lay it out towards the street at the front corner over where the soccer's played? Because that's a really derelict
Yeah,
field for soccer. I'm not even sure it's used that much for soccer. The baseball would never get out there. Why don't we think about laying it up in the front corner where it wouldn't be in the way of a potential school project.
Yeah, I'd want to just check that with the soccer youth sports group and
Yeah.
kind of find out how they use it. But
I guess whatever
I
option
mean,
you could
there
vet.
would be options there, and
Yeah.
so that was. I mean, I think that's something that we could look into that further.
Yeah, I mean, at least we have to explore the possibilities, so then we can say to people, these are the options.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
This was
Nothing's
just-
easy.
So then I guess the last bullet, recommend lighting at Westwood High School to increase tennis, fencing at a cost of $44,000. That's at Morrison? Oh, that was
Yes,
the
that's
whole
the
piece.
basketball
Okay.
court.
So do you need us to vote though on that first
First
piece?
piece, yes.
Yes.
I think you should just add a couple of things to lighting. One is that you looked at two different heights of the light poles.
Right.
And the higher the lighting, the more can be done just on the exterior. The closer the lighting, the possibility that you have to go into the court. Between 40 and 50, you can keep it outside of the fence, so you don't have to go into the court, which would deteriorate the longevity of the court because it
You want it to stay
introduced,
internal.
yeah, it introduced cracks where water could seep in. So you wouldn't want to do that. You want to keep it to the external. 50-foot is the better. However, 40-foot would be a deteriorated level of play, but it was workable.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I do want to stress too, the other thing about the 30-foot poles, that was the in-court option, and that was not supported by the school department for safety reasons. And so it was the safety for the school and for the
Nor
town,
was it
the
supported by
maintenance
the rec
issue.
depart-
It was not,
recreation.
exactly.
So Mike,
That
oh
guy's-
sorry.
That guy's here.
Oh, no, I know.
The 40 foot.
Is the goal to get this to the town meeting in November?
No, the goal is to put it in front of the Board of Selectmen and the long-range planning and to have a discussion over time. So the goal tonight is only to get 100
Say it's spring
appropriation
capital projects like that.
and, yeah, the spring capital projects.
So, okay.
Just a downing. of the
Anybody
high school.
here this evening who wants to speak to these issues?
I do.
Okay. Can you just identify yourself and your address?
Of course, may I sit up there or do I have to sit back?
No, sit wherever you like. Come join us.
I'm gonna sit in your chair. You're the
You
big
want
boss
it?
there.
Go ahead.
This is it right here.
That would be interesting. Run the rest of the meeting.
They call that a coup d'etat.
I came back on vacation for this today.
Careful
How
what
are
you wish
doing?
for.
All right?
That's all I
My
say.
name is Tom Risha. How are you today, everyone? I live on 141 Thatcher, my wife also, right here. Mike Gillette could run this meeting for what I'm going to say because he's been wonderful in doing all this for so long. We've spoken to you, each one of you briefly. Through Bobby Lowney, I had spoken with you, Mike.
Yes.
Through my mother-in-law, June, and my wife, Lynn, had spoken with you on this.
Oh, a long time ago.
Yes, he's got a couple of years ago.
Long time ago, Lynn.
There's a few things that I'm going to bring up, and some of them will be more on numbers. Paul was at the meeting, running the meeting. One time you were at a meeting on the way to New Jersey. Is that correct? They're right in with Nicole and
That is
stuff.
absolutely correct.
I have a problem with the lights and stuff at the high school. I abut the high school. I'm a couple hundred feet away, and we just haven't been treated right by the town.
Okay.
Not the sitting council here or anyone like this, so please don't misunderstand when I use the word "you,"
Okay.
unless I'm pointing at you. So all right? So-
Point this way.
This way? All right. Well, you guys are all right. Don't worry, all three of you.
There is a picture in the packet that Tom's house is on.
It should be, yes.
Don't just get the board there. It's on this, the page that looks like this?
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
It looks like it's radiating.
Yeah, looks like it's radiating. It's right there. And Tom's house is
3.3?
right there in the middle of those
34.
words.
What is it?
4.
Page
That-
34.
Make up.
On that page, you can look at it, it's, there are two that have the picture.
Page
This one.
34.
Right there.
Okay.
And so Tom's house is right there in
Page 34 down the
See it?
bottom, John. Yeah. Then yeah.
So Tom, help me out. So I come across Manhattan Street and I go over and I take a left on the
Clapboardtree,
Thatch,
And then left on Thatcher.
left on Thatcher, and then
That's
you're
correct.
down.
I'm sitting way back. I abut the high school
You can't see it from
property stuff.
Thatcher.
Okay.
That's correct. That's correct.
Not easily.
Okay.
Right. Now,
Have you seen this?
I have seen that.
Okay.
If I gave it to you, it would have been in the winter without any leaves in the trees. It would have been different, of course. Everyone has an agenda on what they're doing here. Mike's been wonderful. I just want you to know that, and you guys know that right along. When we talked about, my problem was the lights. We haven't been treated right by the town. We bought this piece of property, and then the high school stuff was happening. It wasn't like everything was set, and we said, we bought this with the tennis courts there and the baseball and the multi-purpose field. So now I have lights that are just gyrating through, and Mike's well aware of this, and they talked about just putting it down on the multi-purpose field. 9 o'clock, we're gonna shut everything down. Now it's 10 o'clock. So anything that we've been told, I don't wanna say we've been misled, hasn't been the truth, or outright lied to. I don't know where to put this, but it hasn't been the truth. So here we are living here. I've got people yelling, screaming. I got boom boxes now with the other towns coming through. I coach just about everything from T-ball all the way up like you guys, all of you have done. So believe me, for recreation and everything that we've done, I've done this for forever. The lighting would be torturous to us because of how close. And if you're telling me I'm 220 feet, when you drive home tonight, 2 telephone poles, 200 feet. 2 telephone poles, 200 feet. These are high, intense lighting. Now we're gonna put straight down, you might as well be on Lansdowne Street and tell you in Fenway Park. It's still intense lighting. I've got people playing and yelling to all hours of the night. As a resident, this is what I'm not looking for. What also has happened is when I hear about the interest, and numbers are different to everyone. I didn't see any interest in this. As a neighbor, I'm very interested. First and foremost, let me go back, and I apologize for this. I have no problem with resurfacing any of the tennis courts. I'm not against tennis. Resurface all the tennis courts.
lighting.
Okay? When we had the initial meeting, Mr. Gillette was there, and we had a total of 14 people in the entire town that got cards and notification. There were 12 people on the Board of Recreation. So it was pretty close of how many people there were. As a matter of fact, Bob Phillips had written down the number and circled it when he had showed it to me afterwards like that. Half the people were against it because they were either from Morrison or from Downey, so if you want to throw it that way. But I'm going to tell you who was not there. The athletic director wasn't there. The boys' varsity coach wasn't there. The girls' varsity coach wasn't there. The young lady who was the girls' junior varsity coach was there with her girlfriend in pro of this. And they don't, I was saying, how come there are no, well, they don't field the freshman team because there's not that interest there. I'm not here knocking tennis, please. Don't misunderstand me. I'm worried about protecting my home, as anyone else would do here. What we're trying to do, and I know a lot of people are upset because, and I remember with Pat Ahern, he always said if you took something away from someone, they want it back. And that's what they were talking about in the Islington. There was one woman there, I was heartbroken with her. But there was other people I've talked to more so on the Downey and Morrison side that are against it because they want it back. They want, and they use
They
the
don't
word.
want this to interfere with that.
No, they want the lighting on their side, and they use the word promised, and she was, do you remember this, when the woman said promised, and you promised us, and she was very upset over that. The lights that we talked about, and Mike, I'm glad you brought up about the noise, about the tennis wall. I'm gonna be listening to the tennis wall and banging all night. When we started talking about lights, and if you had to do it, I did this research, I traveled with Todd to several towns. Did you go and visit the other towns?
No, I have
No.
the photos from the other towns.
You have photos from the other towns, okay. We said we could go visit these other towns, this was from November, so now it's been 8, 9 months and no one's visited them. I mean, you tell me what the lights are. I was on board, we can do 30 feet. 30 feet, why do I say 30 feet? Boston College has 30 feet, Division I tennis. Longwood Tennis, they have professional tennis players play tournaments there, 30 feet. As well as the woman who was the junior varsity coach's
Can I
friend.
just ask a question? Tony,
Yes,
does
sir.
30 feet have to be inside?
Yes,
Yes.
that would be
Problem.
on court.
So we don't want them inside?
But they're still safe inside. I'm still looking for the 30. Because once we go outside to the 40,
Right.
I'm 50. Because if you notice from across from the rec department, the door there, as you go, the tennis courts are built up 4 or 5 feet. And then they're going to be put on a stand. Again, another 3 or 4 feet. So 40 becomes almost 50.
So is the difference 10 feet? Are we really disputing 10 feet?
The difference is 40 feet, because I really don't want anything. You know, this is what I'm, so that's, to say, the true answer to how I feel, when you tell me about Morrison before, when it was there, it was a great place to be.
And what if just some of these were lit? Would that help?
Well, that's how Mr. Gillette and I started years ago on that, Tom, what if it was the first,
It's still an option.
it's still an option.
Still an option.
The first 3, that would give me, what's the length of a tennis
When you
court?
say first 3, though, I'm just trying to figure
Closest to
out.
Manhattan Street, excuse me.
Yeah.
Closest to
Closest to
Manhattan.
Manhattan Street, excuse me.
Those 3.
Okay.
And you put them on a timer. There are a bunch of options to limit the
Right,
amount of
that's what I was
hours
gonna
that the
say,
lighting
yeah.
is on. That they're only on when they're absolutely used. they're only on for a half-hour period or 45, an hour, then they automatically go off. You can put them on only 3
Well, you could
quarts
switch at 9
or
o'clock.
6 quarts, but 3 quarts have to be used before the other. There are options
Okay.
to play with.
What about
you
that
can
option
work
with just the front 3, the Manhattan 3?
Of everything I've listened to so far, at 30 feet?
No, not, 30 feet's not on the
Okay,
table.
then it would be at 40 feet on the outside perimeter like that. As of right now, if that were to happen, which I don't want it to happen,
Right.
to me, being a neighbor, being that close, that is my best option of
More
anything that's,
acceptable.
of what's available.
Of unappealing options.
And Nicole,
Thank you very much.
Does doing half not, is it, what's the?
Your cost difference isn't going to be that much more, so you can actually do them all, and you can set that only those 3 can come on, but you can have the option of having the others if there was going to be a program hosted or a tournament or something like that. And so, but 3 is, having no lit tennis courts doesn't really meet the standards of what the community would like to see and what tennis options for surrounding communities match up with here. So I think 3 would offer some
Something
night
that's
play.
not there now.
Yeah.
I disagree with Nicole on that, because if there was interest, people would be there. People would have gone to these meetings.
And I have to say, the school department was great. They did provide us with a lot of input. They gave us a lot of time to review this with them. The athletic director and everybody were
Yeah.
able to be involved. We have also received a lot of feedback through email, which is to be expected. I mean, we picked a night, we held a night meeting. Not everybody can make it.
But you can program these outside switches.
You can program
shut
the outside
down.
switches. There are other things you can do. If Tom were to say to us, well, I'm willing to accept 33 courts to be lit for the time being at 40 feet, and we were to accept that as a standard that we could live with, we could underground everything. So it was, at some day, if we decided that we wanted to go forward, that would require an additional appropriation and a different conversation, you know what I mean? But you left those
Right.
unused, and then you saw what the 3 did, and if at some point it was advisable or it seemed to make sense to go to 6, or Tom maybe moved, I don't know.
Tom became a tennis pro?
Or something.
I heard 3.8 and I heard eminent domain. We can talk, all right?
But
No, that might be an idea.
I was just kidding. But the point being that if at some later point we wanted to invest some more money into some additional lights so we could do the other courts, that could be done as another, and the comfort that would be given to Tom at that point is you wouldn't have the lights there to be able to ever be turned on. There would have to be a physical transition to light those additional 3
We've
quarts.
had these conversations and the timer might.
So I'm just trying to find.
It sounds
When we
like,
talked, it was 9 o'clock, we were going to shut down, was that correct? That was our conversation at the time.
That was.
You have to understand my position, not just on the lights and everything.
Yeah.
It's but the way we've been treated, that what we do.
Yeah.
I haven't even brought this up. I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on shrubberies to block this out. I'm now an expert in shrubberies.
well, I don't think you're unreasonable. I mean, it just sounds like you want really tight controls, which I don't think is unreasonable.
Yeah,
It's
and
something
I
you
think
can achieve.
Tom's problem, and I'm gonna be honest and frank, just like Tom always is, the issue he really has is with the lights that are on the stadium
turf
field and on the practice field. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think these lights will be a particular problem to him, but we can discuss that.
That's experience.
Discuss that, we could put some balloons up and that sort of thing. But here's the reason why those other lights are the way they are. Those lights are not of the current or the most efficient lighting system that's currently available, and they're not high enough. They really need to be higher or more better lighting system technology so they can be turned in. What Tom is seeing is the light.
Direct glare.
He's seeing. He's not seeing spillage. He's seeing those lights
Right.
in the background. If they were tilted this way, Tom wouldn't see them as much. I mean, it's not 100% removed, but it'd be far better. Now, what I've suggested to Tom Philbin and what we're currently working on, I spent some time with we've discussed the possibility of taking those lights, because they're not energy efficient, they're not not LED lighting, to use those lights and to see if we can't get an efficient lighting system that would then be tilted so they wouldn't shine in Tom's. Tom would not be able to see them over the trees from his house.
That would be a nice change.
So can we kind of work on some proposals for the next time we meet, include you
Sure, of
in the
course,
discussion? But are the lights on in the turf field in the back of high school till 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock is the turn-off time, yes.
But what's being used back there till 10 o'clock?
There's been a considerable amount of debate that we've had in the meeting. Some of the members of the Recreation Commission have brought up that oftentimes those lights are on and there is
No
nobody
one
on
there.
the fields.
Yep.
It should
So
be an
it's the
automatic
sports
shut-off.
group, and that it's set to not go on past that time, but that's
don't
what's
have- I don't have an
allowed
answer
by
to
our
that.
field policy. I actually pulled all the numbers from last year when this was brought up, and the latest that they were on, there was maybe one night, I think was till 9:45. Almost all nights they were off at 9:30, and that is the sport
controls it?
groups. So the sport groups get an access code that is able to set the times for when they're actually being used, and then we have the controls for the power off shutdown time.
I was going to blame the operations director for the schools.
Sounds like something needs to be done there, and that's an easy
Yeah, I
fix.
guess. I mean, are we hurting programming by setting a policy that says at 9 o'clock town old field lights are going off?
I
mean,
don't.
who's-
I mean,
would be
I would want to poll the rest of the
No, I mean-
commission, but I certainly don't think that.
The high school football field is one thing, because it's
Yeah.
obviously going to be games that are late, but that
getting
field
over
out
there,
back
but-
is intended as a practice field.
I don't ever recall in the 10 years I've lived in town driving by that field.
Why don't
that
you visit that situation and see if you
Yeah.
can rectify it?
We will have that discussion. Thank you.
The day we had the meeting, the first meeting that we had and Mike and I walked out with, I forget who the woman was, walked out, and I'm pointing to Mike that the lights are on at 10 minutes to 10 at night. I mean, this is, and it's,
And was anybody on the field? I
I
didn't
think so that night, because when we drove by afterwards to go home,
That's-
just to see. I remember this
That's
happening.
just bad on a couple levels.
Yeah.
And I remember this happening at Morrison a lot of times, because where I live, and when I come off of 128, I'll go past Norfolk Golf Course and past Morrison.
Yeah.
And I'll see the lights on at night with no one there. And I'll see and I as much as everyone thinks they're seeing tennis, maybe it's me. I don't see anyone playing tennis. I see it more as a babysitting for siblings who are playing baseball. And I love Morrison Field. My kids play, please. I have a love-hate here. What's going on?
So Tom, we hear you. We'll, so between now and then when we make the recommendations, we'll have an offline discussion. Because it sounds like there are some options. And we should just vet them. Does that work?
Of course, I love to be in the loop on this. I don't know when this was put on the agenda. I guess it was last minute. We came back from vacation for this.
No, I appreciate it. I don't-
We
We notified you.
So Friday afternoon, you did. Friday
Wow.
afternoon.
I told you I'd never have a discussion without having you here. And if you hadn't been here, I
That
wouldn't have
counts?
had any
Does that count?
discussion.
That count? It's all right.
He told me about it at noon today, so
did-
feel good, okay?
Then I don't want that chair. I don't want that chair. Forget it. But
So
I-
we will, okay?
But you understand, if everything that we've been told, this is gonna happen, and it hasn't happened, and this is why the first time is shame on them, not you, shame on them.
Yeah.
Second time is shame on me. You
No,
have to
I don't think you're
understand.
unreasonable, and I think
Okay.
it sounds like there's some solutions.
I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak
to
at
see
this
you.
forum, and it's very nice
see you.
seeing all of you. Thank you very much.
There's gonna be more discussion, so please stay.
Yeah,
Welcome, Mr. Bailey.
yes. I just,
Thank you. James Irving, 119 Fearing Drive. I don't know if my house is in the Downey School picture. I think it was at one point. So I live directly behind the Downey School. So I've been to some of the meetings. I've emailed you, part of all that. We don't have an opposition to resurfacing. My wife and some of the, I'm not going to speak for any of the neighbors, but other neighbors seem to be okay with it also. A hitting wall, that seems to be fine. I'm glad that someone brought up the noise, and if there's
attenuation that can be done, yeah.
different materials, maybe that would be fine. We're not interested, or I'm not interested in having lighting there. So if there's ever a discussion of having lighting there, I don't.
There was
I
a-
think
No, that's not in the
we're good on
proposal.
that
So
one.
decided to take it off.
I know
He doesn't want
it
it
was
to be
discussed
considered.
before.
Yeah.
It was part of the
It was an option that was
It
put
was
on
a
the table
previous
for all the
option,
courts.
not proposed here tonight.
Right, so I just,
But
Yeah, no, that's
it's
fine.
off the table.
It's not in this proposal.
I haven't seen that proposal.
Okay.
So.
What he's referring to is when we first went
Let's
out
talk
to the
about
public
it.
hearing in front of the
Okay.
public, we put it all on the table, and we since culled it back, and the lighting was culled back.
Right. And the reasons for that is there's already existing lighting that we have at the Downey School for security and parking.
Yeah.
So that's already on at various times in the day and the night that, everyone can see from their house. And we currently have noise issues already from the Downey School when the trash and the recycle gets picked up twice a week at 6 in the morning. So we already have issues like that, and we don't need, we wouldn't like anymore.
6 in the morning.
The,
So that's what we're gonna vote on for that.
Yep, no, I understand.
The map of the Downey Court isn't in tonight's packet because we didn't propose
the
bringing
table.
that forward, but there was substantially less buffer zone at Downey as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the tree line and the space in between the neighbors
One house
is
that almost is.
just not the same
Watching it play.
situation as this. So yeah, we discussed it purely as an option and, trying to look at all the things that we might have available, and the input was clear that that wasn't the
Yeah,
right
no lights.
choice.
Okay,
There's no interest on lights.
thank you.
Does that work?
No, that's fine.
Thank you for
Okay.
coming.
And we'll check into the
6
trash
o'clock,
collection.
trash.
That's a
Is
little,
there someone else who wants to
Well,
speak?
I understand why they do it. I just don't like it.
I bet you do.
Because they do it before the kids come and then all the traffic starts going around.
Yeah.
So,
That might
I
be
know
exactly
it's
the
probably the
reason.
first run that Waste Management can make. So I understand it. I just,
It's that
Yeah, it
day.
is. Unfortunately, Downey's the first one off the highway,
Yeah.
I
a
know.
lot of things like that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else who wants to speak on the Recreation Commission recommendations? Okay, so we have one proposed action. You want to make a motion?
Sure. I move that we provide funding from the Morrison antenna account. Is that right to call it that?
Yeah.
In the amount of $63,250 for the high school tennis court refurbishment, hitting wall installation, and fence repair, and $36,750 for the Downey School tennis court refurbishment and hitting wall installation. That's my motion.
All right, I'll second that.
Any other commentary? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. Thank you.
More to follow, right?
Thank you.
More to follow, so we'll talk more
Yes,
next month. And
absolutely.
Tom, we will have a discussion offline.
When you're talking about the hitting wall and stuff, do I bring up, if you're gonna put it as far
Well,
away from my home as possible?
no, you know what I mean,
with
but
the
I'm
rec
almost-
department or with the select?
Well, I've got to think if we go on like YouTube, we can find a product demonstration.
But he's just wondering where it would be
Oh, yeah.
located in
I
the
think it
courts?
would, make sense. We put it on the Nahattan Court side
Yeah,
on the far end. Yes.
great.
Make the most sense.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to move on to Verizon license agreement. The Board of Selectmen is being asked to sign a renewed license with Verizon New England. Who's going to speak on this?
I can speak on it.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi,
How you doing?
welcome.
Oh, there's Verizon. I like
okay.
Verizon speak. I didn't realize they were here.
Yeah, my name is Paul Train from Kirby Harrington Pinkett, outside counsel for Verizon.
Okay.
And what you have in front of you is a proposed renewal license pursuant to the federal law of renewal. The bulk of the agreement is essentially the same as the existing agreement, except that it's a shorter term. It's a 5-year term versus a 10-year term. And Verizon's committed to increase funding for access from 1% to 4% year one, 4.5% year two, and 5% in the remaining 3 years. It also pay a per subscriber fee towards public access capital needs based on the needs that Administrator Gillette and the committee had put forth to Verizon. So that's essentially it. It's by and large the same agreement, still has all the customer service provisions that Verizon has to live up to. Has insurance requirements of $1 million, bond for $100,000. So it's essentially a lot of the meat of the agreement is the same as it exists now.
And Paul, the $3 per subscriber per month, is that industry standard? Is that, how does that match up?
Each town ascertains their cable-related needs when we're negotiating with them. Westwood did that. They came up with an amount that was approximately $33,000 to $35,000 annually, and that $3 equates to that roughly.
At the current 3,000
Correct.
people that are on Verizon. Yes, we're okay with it. We went to Westwood Media Center about what they wanted, because there was there was an option that was put on the table that basically split the baby. Half of it would be provided as a fixed fee of $16,000, and half of it would be $1. Well, no, not $1.03. It'd be half of $1.03 per person per month, which would amount to another 16 together would be over 30. The media center wanted to roll the dice and hope that Verizon was more successful in signing up more customers from what they have today in the future, and they'd make out better. So they went with that deal, and that's when they wanted. They also made a modification related to HD. We talked to Tom through council today. There's an issue with HD. And I'm going to say this, and Melinda, if I say anything wrong, you correct me, okay? But what Westwood Media Center wants is an HD channel that they can use. They would like an HD channel at really where the channel is today, which I don't remember what the number is, but it's in the low numbers.
42.
Verizon has indicated to all their other communities and to us that they're willing to talk and give an HD channel, I think in exchange for one of the channels they're giving, or two. But they are looking to move that channel into the 2000 range, I think, so way in the back. The Westwood Media Center has a problem with that because if it's in the 2000, nobody's going to ever see it, whereas you're going to see it if it remains in the lower numbers. So what they've asked for is some modification. They basically wanted to have a discussion about that, or have the opportunity for a discussion. Verizon has agreed to a change in addition to the language, which would say that when we're going to switch over to HD or make it available to the town, we will give you notification, and which would provide us with the opportunity to come and have that discussion, but only at the time that the HD channel was being changed.
Yeah, I would just add that Verizon's also agreed to notify subscribers of the change. So they would reach out to every subscriber in Westwood that's a Verizon customer, notify them of the channel change so that the public's aware of where this channel would be located.
But do you understand why being in the 2000s is challenging at best?
Absolutely.
So is
You have to
there,
get through all the music channels first.
well, yeah, who's surfing,
Yeah.
who's just happening upon the 2000-something channel?
We think with the notice requirement, it's a fair trade-off because under the federal law, programming is strictly the province of the operator. Only thing they need to do is notify the community that they're making channel changes. So what we've tried to do here is accommodate the Access Corp so that, remember, we're giving an HD channel. Comcast doesn't provide one now. We're providing much more funding than Comcast
We'll be
does.
talking to them.
So I appreciate that. So
When the
you know,
time comes.
So what we're trying to do is find the proper balance. And
Yeah.
we think we've done this with the language change that Administrator Gillette mentioned.
I feel like that's great, but if we end up in the 2000s, it's, if it can be something that's more in the range of where people are with their clickers or
Sure.
looking at the guide, for instance, you come across, you say, I know with the guide, it's supposed to be more clearly stated what it is, right, as opposed to public programming or whatever. It just, it would, we are in the challenging environment of it's hard enough to get information out to the
Sure.
public.
No, understood.
Barely, thank goodness we have a reporter here tonight, but often we don't have any press covering meetings and all the things that go on. So we're trying to do well by the community and get information out to them, especially the government side, and then there's the recreation side and all the other things that we now have a media center that does, provides to the community. So it's so important to us that this be a vibrant, accessible.
Yeah, understood. And that was clear during the ascertainment process where
Yeah.
the folks explained how important public access is in Westwood and to get information out about the government.
And I just want to underscore that.
Yeah.
we really
You just did.
need.
Thank you.
So with the high-def channel, we have 32 and 42 in town on Verizon. So if they give us a high-def channel, would it be 2042? In other words, if I set my clicker now, and I do know how to do this, set it programs that I hit a channel, if I go to channel 5, it automatically takes me to 505 because it's high-def. Would that still be available for our cable to the HD channel?
I'm not sure how to answer that. There are a lot of changes that'll be happening over the next few years on not just Verizon, but Comcast and all the competitors, where people are toying with the idea of not having any channel numbers at all. And so there's a lot of changes that are happening. And
Is that an advancement?
Allegedly. So, there's
Wow.
it really depends on how Verizon repositions their programming of the channels.
Right.
And that'll happen over the next 24 months.
Right, I mean, if they go to the Comcast version of Take Me to
Yeah.
Westwood Media,
You don't need
you don't need a channel anymore. Right.
But you gotta click in and get the letters.
No, you don't, you just talk to it. I have one down the Cape.
Okay.
All right, so Mike, Westcat's good.
But that's good.
Okay, you're good, I'm good.
I ran it by, the new language change by them. They're looking forward to the increase in fees,
Yeah,
and so
we
they'd
need to
like
get
to
this
implement that. So, the advice to you is to sign it. We will be making the modifications as I just outlined them to you over what you saw over the weekend.
We'd like to
But
approve
we'd
that
like
and
you
an
to approve it,
understanding.
understand
Yeah,
it.
that's fine.
If there's any further change, other than that, I'll bring it back, but I don't expect that at all.
You ready?
Yeah, you ready for motion?
So I move that we accept and assign the Verizon renewal license as to be amended, which will cover a 5-year term. Which will cover a 5-year term. I'll just leave it at that.
All right, I'll second that.
Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to your
Thanks.
client as well.
We have a request to post and fill a Veterans Administrative Assistant. Looks like Paula Scoble is retiring in September.
Can somebody get,
I'll get her.
I can give it to
Yeah, you wanna do it right now?
Sign them right now while we'll wait for Joan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
And I'll send the revised version of Peter Gibson tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey, Joan. Welcome.
Just in time, did you hear us talking about you?
Joan, we're requested to post and fill a Veterans Administrative Assistant. Paula Scoble is retiring in September. She has worked part-time for just under 10 years. And what we're going to fill in her place is a full-time administrative assistant, or again, a
No,
part-time?
part-time.
Part-time.
Okay.
Replace it as is, 21 hours a week.
Okay, I don't have any questions.
No.
She's doing a great job, but
She has.
we're losing the Scobles.
They're both gonna be home together. I don't know if that's a good idea.
Yeah, let's take bets on who's gonna come running back
First.
I move we authorize the town administrator to work with the Veterans Agent and Human Resources Director to post and fill the position of Veterans Administrative Assistant.
Well,
And
second.
hope we get lots of great candidates.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none?
Thank you.
On September 24th, the Temple Beth David will be holding an Interfaith Mini Walk for Hunger from 2 to 5 p.m. It's a 3-mile walk in the vicinity of Pond Street and Manhattan Street, returning back to Atoma, Clapboardtree Street. Anybody here from Temple Beth David? Okay, can I have a motion?
Oh, I move that we approve the Interfaith Mini Walk for Hunger on September 24th, 2017, starting at Temple Beth David and running from 2 to 5 p.m. It's a great cause and great effort.
Contingent upon the final approvals of the police and fire.
Contingent upon what we know will be final approvals from the police and fire department.
I'll second.
Anybody here? Okay, any commentary? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, where is it?
Out of order.
Back.
Perfect. Why don't we just introduce?
Appointments.
Do you want to get to it? Let's just do it right now. Where is it? I apologize. Tell me where it is.
It's at the end, very end. It's an old business. at the
Under
end.
old stuff.
Under old.
Appointments and reappointments, page 102,
Page 102.
down the bottom. All the pages are down.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Oh,
Steve,
Steve,
why don't you come
Commission,
up?
Steve and David, that's him in the back.
No worries, no.
Oh, Stephen. Welcome. I'm glad Mike
He's
took
been
me
here
up.
for a
I'm
while,
sorry. I
and
didn't
I-
realize what you were here for. Okay.
Resume.
So this is for an appointment to the Conservation Commission. Nora, do you want to just give us a little bit of background?
Sure. As you know, we had a period of time where the Conservation Commission was understaffed. And we've been steadily trying to fill it up. At your, I think it was your last meeting or one meeting in June,
Yes.
you appointed Helen Gordon to serve as that was the last opening for a regular position. We still have an opening for one of the alternate positions, and Stephen has offered to fill that spot. Mike and I and Conservation Commission Chairman John Rogers and the Conservation Agent Karen Catroni all met with Steve last week.
Correct.
And discussed the
Yeah, no,
role
great.
of the commission member. And
You have a great resume, you have a great background. I mean, thank you for stepping up. We need help.
Well, just giving back.
Yeah.
Just giving back a little.
No, it's great to
That's,
hear.
that's my only motivation.
Cedar Development, you've done projects in Westwood.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I guess my only question for you would be, through your business, either as legal counsel or development, do you find that there'll be many conflicts that might arise? Because sometimes
No,
it's
I mean,
happened with some
I've been
council we've
before
had on the committee.
conservation before, and I'll probably
Yeah.
be in front of them again
Right.
occasionally, but obviously,
Yeah.
under those circumstances, there'd be plenty of ways to safeguard any kind of
Yeah.
conflict. I don't really search out properties that have conservation issues for obvious reasons, but
Okay.
the town does have a lot of area that is protected.
Yeah.
So try to stay away from that. But
Okay.
there is the potential for conflict, I wouldn't.
Yeah, we all have that at times,
Yeah,
but
so.
So how many employees does this make on the Conservation Commission?
many.
There
We
used to
tend
be a lot
lose
more,
them.
but
Yeah,
Now we
tend to
had-
lose
we
them
added
because
Helen, we're
of
adding
too many
Steve, I don't
conflicts.
is Helen?
Helen's
Ellen's an engineer.
As an engineer, we have a
Yeah.
developer, we have a landscaper, we have two other engineers.
We've just had experiences where people with legal practices have had,
Oh, I don't do any
Too
of that.
many
I don't
issues
do any
and
of that work.
Okay.
No, I don't represent
okay,
clients before boards anymore.
yeah. I mean, it would just, it turns out to be unfortunate that we run into
Yeah,
that
no,
problem,
no,
or they
I
do.
didn't, I misunderstood what you were asking then. No. I
thank
thought
you.
you meant myself coming before as an applicant.
Well, I didn't mean it, but that's also
Yeah.
appropriate, to recuse
All
yourself.
right, do we have a motion?
I move that we appoint Stephen David to the Conservation Commission as an alternate, or associate member, I guess I'll say, for a 2-year term to expire June 30th, 2019.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed,
Aye.
none. Thank you, congratulations. I'm
Now
sorry
that-
I've made you wait.
No, that's okay. Now that you've appointed me, I just want to disclose the fact that Tom Reese is my brother-in-law.
Okay.
He's a good guy.
Well, thank you for coming to the meeting. It's great to meet you.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. See you again.
Nice to see you.
Thanks.
Okay, so we have,
Yeah,
next
we have a
item,
unit.
a local initiative program application for 321 Washington Street. So this is an application that the town needs to approve to go forward to the Department of Housing and Community Development. The board had voted in June authorizing the developer to proceed with an application. Nora, am I correct?
Correct, and we had been, I think we polled the board members,
That's
because the
right.
application needed to be submitted as soon as possible.
Oh, okay.
And
There
the
was-
board
there was an
said
email.
At the Department of Housing and Community Development, so this is to confirm the vote. that
Public
individuals
confirm the
voted.
vote.
Okay.
And so there's a host of positives with it, but one of the issues we talked a little bit about earlier was the fact this contributes to our
It does.
40B
We will
compliments.
have 2 new units added to
Yep.
our subsidized housing inventory.
Actually, these two units, one of them will be satisfying the 10% requirement of the units that got built, and then the other one would be an additional unit counting toward, because there are only 12 units,
Oh, okay.
so.
So
it's
is this in
10%.
perpetuity? So does,
It is.
It runs, it has to be a
unless,
covenant, right?
unless it comes out?
It's a local action unit, which
Okay.
means that it's a unit that's required by our zoning. Local action units, because they're required by zoning, are in perpetuity.
Okay.
Or until you change the zoning requirement, so that's not something anyone
It's hard
has
to
any
make that.
intention of doing.
Right.
But
Okay.
because the development meets the 10% requirement, we can't count all 12.
No, we cannot.
Not as rental.
We have 25% of a overall project.
That's
for
right.
adult
Oh, I got it,
units.
okay.
We only count the 2 actual affordable units.
Oh, okay, great. I'm
That's great,
I'm
okay.
good.
I move we support and confirm our authorization for the chairman, Mr. Hickey, to sign and submit the local initiative application to the Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development for 2 affordable housing units to be located at 321 Washington Street, Westwood, Massachusetts.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, what's next?
Calendar for the board.
Oh, yeah, so this is Christine. So a lot of this came about, I had a really good meeting last week with the chairman of the school committee and the school superintendent, and we agree, one of the things that we took away from the meeting was we're gonna work really hard on setting up the budget steering meetings. And so we kind of all talked, they were really working on their calendar for the year. I thought it might be a good idea for us to talk about our calendar for the year. So I think you took a shot at it, right?
Yeah, this was,
Right.
this is the sort of basics of
Yeah.
what the board looks at over the course of a fiscal year.
No, this is great.
Well, starting with approval of budget, what does that mean in the first quarter? We've approved the budget at town meeting. I don't know what approval in the first quarter,
That must have
approval of budget
been
means.
execution of new budget. I think we were
still don't know what
we were
that
looking
means.
at it in words
Yeah.
and trying to put it into a calendar, and
Talk to Pam, because I still don't know what that means.
I think that's the incorporation of the budget that was approved at town meeting. You
Yeah.
start in July and you enter it in and you start.
Well, I
Yeah,
kind
but
of feel
that's
like,
not,
rollout
that's not
of
a Board
the
of Selectmen
new-
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not a good
Phrase.
representation.
I think better would be, well, not better, in place of, we have the capital approvals subsequent to the town meeting that come in quarterly. So I would go through this with Pam.
Yeah.
And ask her for those key dates, because,
right.
you know, capital for the schools, capital for municipal, we have to decide if we're going to let the monies be released. And that, those are important actions that we take. So, anyway.
And I guess the other thing too, Christine, if you could, is it seems complicated, and then when you sit down, it's like, you know, every month is like almost one holiday. Then we have the religious holidays, right? So you quickly start month by month finding that there are days and weeks you can't meet, school vacation, etc. So could you just look at last year's calendar and maybe plug in a draft from now through town meeting?
Yep.
That we can kind of, for me anyway, it's just helpful to know as far in advance. I don't know what you guys think, or
Yeah.
Nancy, if you have any thoughts. I'd love to be able to at least say this is our goal and amend if we need to. Does that make sense?
The goal,
Of having meeting dates set.
You know, Christine, it's just fiscal, so, you know, we don't have that never-ending reappointment.
No, but this is helpful. This is a good start.
yeah, maybe we should pass on things, but I have the other thing, we have warrant opening and closing for fall town meeting.
Should be
It
September to
needs
October.
refinement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was a work in progress.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
no, right. And so, just Michael and Nancy, so you know, so one of the things I had sent an email to Mike and Pam last week, when we have the budget steering kickoff meeting in September, we wanted to have some documents in front of us that we could all kind of set a map out from September through town meeting. So this is a big help. So I think we'll keep that in old business for next month.
yeah,
Okay.
happy to.
Minor.
Yeah, you got some notes, I got some notes, so. Have any feedback, let us know and,
Yeah, this is definitely not final.
Yeah, no, right.
Work in
It was
progress,
an
let you
initiative
know.
to kind of
Yeah.
get this going. No, I appreciate
Start,
it.
yeah, okay,
I
that's
mean,
fine.
yep, and you also have to do, warrant open for the,
For the fall
Possible.
town meeting,
Yeah.
yeah.
which would be what, second week of September to second week of October, or 2 weeks?
I
Not
don't
a
even
lot
think we
of
do it
time,
that
right?
long, I think it's
Just
give it a
one
week.
meeting?
one
Usually one
the
meeting.
first meeting in September, which
Open
you
it.
also try to make a decision if you're having, so decision on town meeting, and then I think it's open warrant if, it's kind of like a step,
yeah,
two-step
I've
process.
already notified all the department heads to start submitting any articles they may want to have considered, because the next meeting in August, I'd like to give you some indication. Here's
Have
half
one
a dozen
about
articles that people are thinking about, just so you know, or there's nothing.
Right.
That anybody's bringing forward, so.
Okay, so to be continued?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the efforts on that. Next item is proposal to issue a request for proposals for the Obed Baker House, which is a town-owned structure on High Street. There was a plan at one point in time for Westcat to use it. That has gone by the wayside. Westcat has acquired their own property. It is now sitting vacant. This is the red brick building to the right of Dunkin' Donuts.
That's right.
On High Street. And so we've,
Did you say brick?
I said red.
Oh, just red, okay, I thought I heard brick.
To the right of Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
It's been a long day, maybe I said brick.
Yeah.
Red brick, my brain was doing tricks.
Redwood.
So, Nora, staff is recommending at this point that we put out an RFP. We think there might be some private interest
Yes,
in the
we
property.
know of at least
No.
2 parties that are interested. There could be others. We think it's a good time to send it back out to see what the interest is. This will be the 3rd RFP, so we had put it out for an RFP, I think it was probably 2012. That was not successful. We had no bidders. We tried it again in late 2014, early 2015. We thought we got to a use with Westcat. That fell through. They decided it wasn't economic. We took some time to look at the structure and study it for potential municipal use, and we've now determined that the costs are too high and the space is just too small to make that a realistic possibility. So we're proposing putting it out for another bid and crafting the RFP for the type of use we want. Now, the one complicating factor that's been an issue every time we've put this out, there are 2 lots. One lot that the house sits on is a commercially zoned within our local business district. The other lot is residentially zoned. Most users have an interest in both parcels because they'd like to park on the...
Where's the other lot, though?
It's to the right of the house, so if you look at the house from High Street, it's just to the right. There are trees on it right now. It looks like an orchard.
And is there any property in the rear that would come with
Cemetery.
The
There is property the town owns in the rear that we would subdivide from this lot where the cemetery garage is. And in fact, from the residential property next to it, we would subdivide that as well. So it would only be the front portion of both of those lots that would be made available. And there would be a limitation. We would not allow traffic to come out of the residential lot onto High Street
Right.
because it's a very
That way,
dangerous
yeah.
intersection. So you would have to access the property as you do now off of the road between Dunkin' Donuts and the Obed Baker House.
And the chain link fence between this property and...
And Dunkin'
Do we
Donuts
know
property?
that that's the town?
No,
I don't
that's
know.
the-
I believe that's
no, I do
Dunkin'
know.
Donuts,
It's
Mackenzie's.
Mackenzie.
Would we want to do any enhancement to that before we put this out?
Well, we might want to ask the Mackenzies to repair it.
They're
Yeah.
highly unlikely to, but you can always
No, that's what I
ask.
mean. It really
can't-
detracts from it, so I didn't know if you thought if we cleaned it up a little, it would help. But
Well, we could
just a
suggest
thought.
that we put a new fence in, we allow them to remove theirs, and we put it on our side.
Right.
That would be one option.
No,
Both are
that
builders,
might
right?
make them happy.
Both,
Potential
yes, both the
builders?
builders that
Yeah.
are interested, yes. And there could be others, so.
Yeah,
I
we
had
need
told
to
you,
be.
There was a private interest
Yeah,
prior.
I've
too.
spoken to both of them, so.
And there was another guy that was interested for his wife's business.
Yes, he was interested originally for the first and second time it went out to bid, but he didn't actually end up bidding the first time. He bid the second time. It was not the bidder that was chosen. He may bid again. I don't know.
I think the issue that the board needs to understand is that the first time, I think there were a couple of things that were standing in the way, and we went back and asked the bidders. One was that we were asking too much for the land, given the amount of money that has to be invested in fixing up the property. We were asking $250 at the time, and you put that on top of the upgrade that would need to be made, especially if we're going to preserve it as historical. And both of the bidders that we've talked to, or at least one of them, is really looking to do that. So that price is not a good price. So we reduced it to $100,000 in the last bid, which seems like a low price, but it does get it into economic use for us. The second thing was that we had made requirements in the first bid of a level of detail on plans and things that would have been costly to put in a bid, and we got some response that, we're not going to invest that kind of money
Yeah.
to do that kind of
To
thing.
not know if we're going to win the
Right,
dance.
Exactly.
so when we rewrote
Right.
the bid and sent it out for $100,000, it was for concept plans, and we got 3 proposals, 2 of which were viable proposals, and we chose one.
Sort of.
Didn't go through, so. Two were viable, the third was not. So,
Sort of.
so we'd like to try it again, either keeping at the base price of 100 or going up to something that you think would be reasonable, but we don't want to go too high because we don't want to
So-
discourage.
Well, I think it's hard to raise it when we've already put
We
that.
put it out for that amount.
Yeah,
That
doesn't seem to make
that
sense.
was
But I have
couple
a
of years
question. Can
ago.
we do this in a time frame where we could get a response back in time to put this through a fall town meeting process?
I think we can. I need to work through procurement, so I have to check to see where Michelle stands in the projects that she's putting out to bid right now to make sure that she can get it into the
That'd be
register.
helpful.
But the draft is written. It's ready to go. Just has to be reviewed, and unless there are special conditions you would like to put in it that weren't in it the first.
Can we just show flexibility on the beehive oven?
Yes, and we did in the last go-round. So the beehive, preserving the beehive oven was a plus, it wasn't a requirement.
Was it
Yeah.
advantageous?
That's what I
That's
thought you
right.
had said. I mean, I'd like to keep it that way.
The only requirement was exterior restoration, preservation, and
And the
continual
exterior
upkeep.
is looking in need of some attention, so
Yes,
the
it
sooner
is.
we do this, the
It
better.
is.
So it's just, sorry, so it's not like the people coming in to repair it or go back and put it back in its original state and then, take it off the lease or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
That's not how the RFP is going.
No,
In other
we-
words, so,
well, they
let's say a
could-
builder comes in and spends $100,000 to bring it back to its original restoration, and obviously I'm way low, but anyway.
Way low.
Let's say $500,000.
That's
And then-
closer.
Right, that's probably more realistic. Are we planning to, I don't know, reduce the lease over time? If they sign a 10-year lease, that we reduce the lease based on how much
gonna
they've
sell it,
spent to
right?
repair
They
it?
were gonna sell it,
The
yeah.
last time we allowed a lease or sale option. We can
Sell
still
it.
do that, but I think the preference here is for sale, and
yeah.
I think that we should
Okay.
make it clear. I think we should still allow the lease option for flexibility, but I think we
Preference
should
for
make
a
it clear
sale.
the preference is for sale. And
Advantageous,
that there
yeah.
would be a historic easement placed on the exterior of the building.
And the only reason why we did the lease the last time is because we knew one of
Westcat
the
couldn't
bidders,
buy it.
which was Westcat,
Right.
wanted to do a lease. They didn't
And
want
they
to buy the
weren't,
property.
they weren't able to purchase it, so we wanted to give enough flexibility
Yeah.
so that that would work. But I think here.
We don't need to be the
We don't
landlord.
want to do that anymore.
I know, I mean, I think we should be getting out of the business of owning these properties.
Yep.
Why wouldn't we just do sale?
It worked on Colburn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although in the Colburn
That's
School,
a ground lease.
we had written the RFP the same way, for a purchase or a lease purchase. So that we had that option, just in case the funding
Yeah, we
worked in
didn't-
a
we
way
didn't know
to
what
to
it
do
might come
that.
in.
Okay.
But I think we can make it clear that sale for a reasonable
Strongly
amount of
preferred.
money. And in any case, it has to be restored appropriately on the exterior. On the interior, the bidders have the option. And the last time around, we said there would be, if they propose restoring the beehive oven, they would get extra points on their bid.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move we authorize the town administrator to work with the Community and Economic Development Director to issue a request for proposal for the preferred sale and adaptive reuse of the Obed Baker House.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
opposed, none. Thank you. This evening, the Board of Selectmen will be signing 4 orders of taking for Clapboardtree Street. These are parcels that have to do with the roadway construction where Clapboardtree meets 1A or Washington Street. Mike, we will be compensating Severian Brothers High School $32,000 for 3 parcels and a private property owner adjacent to the same area, $17,500. So if you have that paperwork, we will sign it. I don't believe we need a vote, as we've already taken a vote at town meeting.
No, you need to take it.
I think you need to vote to.
Okay, can I have a motion?
You're
Authorize
exercising
this.
town meeting's action.
I move that we officially approve and sign the order of takings, which will issue the payments to the property owners whose land is being acquired in order to complete the construction and redesign of Clapboardtree Street to Washington Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay.
Yep.
Adopt the town administrator goals, Mike, and I apologize, I didn't spend much time talking to you before today. I made some edits.
Those are incorporated. The ones in red that are
Yeah, no, I think
incorporated are
it's
the
great.
most recent edits. I've received other edits prior to that and incorporated those.
So do we want to adopt these tonight and then maybe spend some time? Or do we want to dive into them tonight? What do you, any preference?
Do we need to dive into them?
Huh?
Do we need to dive into
I
them?
don't, I mean, do you want to talk about anything tonight?
I'm
or-
generally gonna be following these goals whether you vote to do it or not.
Yeah, no, fine,
You tell me
fine.
differently, I mean, like.
I would say the only one I want to comment on is under improved communication with the staff, the community, and governing structure. I'd like to see something more specific, but we don't need to hold up the
Right.
goals for that. I think communication is the name of the game in so many ways, so.
And if you know, at some point, just sit down with me and be a
We'll
little
be
more
doing your
specific on what you're
review.
looking at.
I already did
Yeah,
add
yeah,
something,
okay.
but you chose not to include it, so we'll
Like,
talk.
I wrote it, I thought I did, so maybe.
But Mike, I would, the only one that I'd added about studying alternatives to current traffic flow 109, I would like for you and I and for Tom and Todd to sit together,
Okay.
okay? In the coming, and I'll set that up. Joan did a really good job She started to map out the review process and to kind of put some structure around that for the coming year. We don't have to go too deep on that tonight, but she did, I think, draft something, and she's not here, we can talk about it later. With that, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the town administrator municipal FY18 goals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, done.
Between now and the next meeting, I'll sit down and get clarification on anything that needs to be clarified, and I'll give you another set.
Yeah, perfect.
Revised, okay?
Love it. Where are we? Sorry.
Appointments and reappointments. Page 102.
I'm on goals, page
102.
102. Okay. Okay, 102.
Yep, you pulled it out. We did, what's his name's appointment earlier? Yeah.
What I did?
That's good. Yeah, when you pulled out.
Oh, perfect, thank you. Okay. Christine, what do we have?
A lot. Most of them are actually the reappointments, which we will get to. Those are the last couple pages in the packet for appointments. However, Michael spoke with Michael Beaumont
Yep.
about an interest in serving on the cemetery commission, so that would fill the third vacancy.
Yep.
So if we want
Who
to.
initiated?
I did.
Good idea.
We were sitting,
Oh, we were just
typing, I
chatting.
said, Mike Beaumont isn't doing anything. So I texted him, and I said, you want to do it? And we went back and forth a couple of times, next thing I knew, he was saying
Brilliant.
yes.
That's great.
So we need to vote on that one.
Vote on that one.
We did Stephen David, Council on
Yep.
Aging is done.
Council on Aging, we're actually going to come back. The three members are not seeking reappointment, and Michael and Lena have started meeting with a few people that are interested. So we'll finish those out.
Okay.
The Council on Aging does not meet during the summer, so they're okay
Oh,
for
okay.
now. But we will have those done by the August 14th meeting, because they'll start back up in September. So we'll come back to that.
Okay. Historical
The
Commission.
Historical Commission, Michael, do you want to
Explain that one, Mike.
explain that?
Historical Commission, yeah. Back when we were talking about, and Nora, you want to participate in this one? This is about the Historical Commission. I didn't mean anything. There's a feeling that, you get the Historic Society, you have the Historic Commission. The Historic Commission has recently, by town meeting vote, adopted, or we have now, a bylaw, right, that requires that any house that's was built before 1914, 1910, come before the commission to determine whether or not it can be demolished if it's being proposed for demolition, and based on its historic value. Well, the Historic Society may have goals that are way different from what the Historic Commission and its responsibility to the community are. And there was a feeling that maybe we should be a little bit more cautious in appointing members of the commission from that also had membership, especially in leadership roles in the society. And we currently have a couple of people that are on the commission that are leaders in the Historic Society. We just feel that it might put them at a conflict of interest, in that their interest as society members may be different from what the town's interest should be with regard to the decision on whether or not these homes should be demolished. So, because one of the members that fits into that category is Mrs. Provost, I suggested that the board hold on that so we could have, so we could tell you this and see what you thought before we went forward with
So
this.
she serves on both boards?
She serves on both boards. I understand her to be the co-president of the society. This isn't taken away from Laura. Laura's been an outstanding person in this community forever. So I don't want to be misinterpreting here. The issue is not about the individual as much as it's about the possibility of a society membership being at odds with what we'd want the Historic Commission membership to be.
So is it the perception of a conflict, or is it a?
I think it's more than
A real
I would say it's.
There can be actual conflicts. So as an example, you have a property owner that's going before the Historical Commission, asking for permission to demolish their structure. The Historical Commission looks at the structure, determines what is worthy of preservation, and sets up a plan for how those elements of the building are preserved. in many cases donated to the Historical Society. So there's that appearance that the members of the Historical Society could be exacting materials from a developer or a property owner in order to grant a shorter time frame. That's not, I'm not suggesting that anyone's doing that. I'm saying
Yeah.
that that's the conflict that they're open to by being members of both boards.
Anybody else deal with this issue in any other communities that we know of?
I haven't spoken to
Yeah, it's
other
probably hard to
communities
figure that out. I mean, we're all unique in how we're doing this.
Is the Historic Society something that's normal in other communities?
There are other communities that have private historical societies. There are also communities that have historic district commissions in addition to the historical commission. So just a different
No
board.
doubt
And there
does.
is a limited number of people who have this as their interest in,
Right.
are willing
Yeah.
to serve on the
Yeah,
different.
that's what I think the hardest part is, trying to find people to fill those other
That
slots.
are interested, yes.
Yeah.
Interested and willing. And the role of the historical commissioner has increased significantly, where they used to meet 3 or 4 times a year, sometimes 5. They now have had 6 or 7 applications under the historical
Bylaw.
Yeah, so
demolition
it's
bylaw
actually
since
more,
January.
more
So
lifting.
they are meeting at a minimum once a month, often twice a month.
Do you have a recommendation for us?
Yeah, I think because of the potential conflict of interest that you indicate that this isn't the preferred practice of
Have you talked to
continuing-
Nancy Donahue, who's
No,
chair?
we haven't talked to her, and if you would
Maybe you
like, I'd
should.
have a conversation.
Yeah, I almost feel
Yeah.
like we should just have a conversation with them, because they may not realize.
But also,
either, you know?
like, maybe we just, for people that serve on both, we take them out of, what do you want to say? Not make them the chair. You know what I mean? If they're going to serve on both, then they can't serve.
But we have
a
nothing to
position
do
of
with the
power.
Historical
Yeah.
Society.
You know what I mean?
I think the concern is them being in a leadership position
Right.
in the private organization.
Yeah, we can don't control
Because
that.
then they're members that are responsible for the materials that are held by that organization.
And one of the ways to avoid the conflict would be to go have a conversation with the particular member that we're appointing and say, look, but we would like you to indicate to us that you will not serve in a leadership role on the society during your 3-year
Why
term.
don't you start talking to Nancy and figure out how to carry on the
Okay.
conversation further? I mean,
All right.
obviously, we're discussing in an open meeting now, but I think engaging her, because she has stepped up as chair, right?
Oh,
She
Nancy
has,
Donahue
yes,
has.
and she has been an excellent chair.
Yeah, and
She's really
we
listened to
appreciate all that.
engagement and, she's doing a great job on the
Well,
demolition.
and I think we have a conversation with the entire membership about it. I mean, we're not really trying to do anything
No,
untoward
no, I
in
think-
any
I
way.
think it's-
want-
Just tell 'em
I
it
just
would
want to be
help us.
perfectly clear that this is not directed at anybody.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna hold on that.
Yeah.
Islington Center Task Force,
That's still on hold, I guess, right?
hold? Hold, okay, I'm fine with that.
No
Plan-
discussion at all? Do we, okay. I'm
I mean, I don't, having served on the task force, I mean, I think until something else comes up, we can't really force anybody on the other side of Washington Street to sell their properties. Do you know what I mean?
So the task force, the planning board had asked you to appoint the task force so that we have an organization ready to discuss any applications that come before you and also to plan for the future of Islington Center. So the next step I see for that task force is actually writing the element of a comprehensive plan, the Islington portion of the town center plan. That's what I see as their most important role coming up, but also weighing in on the East Street Bridge design plans when they get to their final hearing, weighing in on any proposals for development in that area. So I do see a role still for the task force. I don't think they were ever intended to only deal with the RFP. The RFP was one of the items that they were asked to deal with when they were first formed, but there was always a list of items that were set forth for them.
So it seems like there are 2 parts. One is the staff people who should be on it, and the other is the other people, boards, community members. And when it comes to boards, we had some people that were on very specifically because of the project proposal. You know,
The library,
in-
youth and
yeah,
family
the library.
services, the rec
Absolutely.
department.
Services and recreation.
Right.
So if we're doing something more broadly, East Street Bridge, I mean, they've become knowledgeable, but are those the right people to have on the task force, I think is the question. And then Helen's gone off. Do we, how many people? It's been a large task force. Maybe it doesn't need to be the same size. I don't know.
It's very difficult to have membership, to get a quorum and have a productive meeting with a 21-member board. That has been difficult.
So I would say, we'll make a decision tonight, but it'd be great to get your recommendation as to what should this task force be, and your
What should the
input
makeup
as a
be?
member of the Board of Selectmen on the task force, and see if we can agree on moving that forward.
I think we can absolutely cut down on staff and have people available on call. For
Yeah.
instance, Todd Fortune has always been the member,
Right.
but often Jimmy McCarthy would be the one who would come because we were talking about the facilities themselves.
Right.
So I don't think all the staff members really need to be ex officio members of the commission. I think they can be on
Call and who you
call
need.
for when we need them to come in. I do think it's important to still have some presence from any departments that are involved for the comprehensive plan. So as we're writing a plan for the
Okay.
town center, I do think we need to have some role, but that doesn't mean that we have to have a library staff member and a library board member.
Right.
One or the other would be able to express the opinion.
So why don't you
Yeah,
make a
figure-
Do you want to talk to
recommendation
the
to us?
people on?
figure
and-
out.
Yeah. I mean, I do think, the one thing I would say is it's simply a very large group.
Yeah, that's hard to
Sometimes less
manage.
is more.
We need to remember that this task force was really created more to advise the planning board about,
Applications that are coming before them,
Right.
and advise this board, for instance, on the East Street Bridge, so we were concerned about the design.
Well, I mean, the
and
hope
how
is,
that
I
would-
mean, with the current development and hopefully future development, that'll be a seed for further down Washington Street, right? So,
we would hope.
That's the hope.
I mean, one of the things the task force could do is have all the landowners on the other side of town come together and have a conversation, probably with staff to bring back a report to the task force for its comment, but that would explore the possibility of what could be done on the other end of town with all the vacancy that exists down there.
okay, so there's no action center historical commission, no action center Islington Center task force, planning board recommended appointments.
So every year, the planning board, when they reorganize after town meeting, they go through a list of 5, 6 different organizations and recommend their representation for the board's appointments. So those boards are the MAPC Council, Metropolitan Area Planning Council, the Housing Partnership, Fair Housing Committee, the Massachusetts MBTA Advisory Board designees, the Regional Transportation Advisory Council, and the Three Rivers Interlocal Council, TRIC. So the planning board has listed out some members that they're suggesting that the board consider, and it's up to the board's discretion.
So Mike and I talked about this today, and at this point, I'd just like to leave it on hold.
But is that okay?
The whole thing on hold, or just the
Well,
first one?
just the MAPC? Yeah, okay. I'd like to leave at least the portion of the MAPC off.
And when do they meet though?
They meet once a month, but I don't think they meet in.
That'll be in the summertime.
Oh, okay,
August.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I would say leave the whole thing on hold.
Okay.
I'm not gonna try to pronounce that, Mike.
What?
Town boundaries.
Perambulation
Oh,
town boundaries. We have a
Reambulation.
retired land surveyor who has stepped up.
Yes, right.
Let's approve him right now. I can tell it's unanimous.
It used to be our town engineer, Jeff.
Jeff.
Would the Board of Selectmen would designate him as the person that would go. It's mostly Needham that has done it in the past. We're supposed to do it
We
every
have a
5
little
years.
corner.
Oh, corner, I need
Do we really?
Where, down?
You're supposed to walk all boundaries.
I know. Well, we haven't done it in years.
Yeah.
The Needham
Jeff-
Board of
Mike,
Selectmen.
get out your walking shoes
Needham's
on.
very good.
Watch out, could be
Jeff-
smaller.
Knees first.
Jeff
There might be
needs
some
to do it.
unclaimed land out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And they do find mistakes.
Yeah, no.
so
Who's better than a retired?
Steven
Lance.
Springer. So
Give him
Steven
the heads
Springer
up.
has reached out to us.
yeah, we accept.
Okay.
The Recreation Commission.
Recreation Commission.
Oh,
at
that's
your
back.
At your last meeting, you sort of reorganized them a little bit, moved Mitchell Katzman up from associate membership and Elizabeth Phillips down
Okay.
to associate membership.
Right.
Paul Tesserius reached back out and said that he's expressed in coming back to the Recreation Commission as an associate member. So that would be a 3-year term. Sorry, I didn't put the terms in there.
We good?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, he's great.
Okay.
Chris Dodge, the pastor of First Parish, is interested in starting the Roy London Humanitarian Award Committee.
And we might want one more, but
He's great. Yep.
so
Any
that's-
issues? We good there?
And then the big list, which I've
Okay.
written holds and skips on.
That's the highlighted one?
That's the highlighted one. These are mostly reappointments. This is a lot of standard information. For example, the Healthcare Review Committee is all staff and union representation. I think with the GIC still being in place and
The town mitigation.
mitigation fund, that group will probably meet at least twice, if not more, this year. The Local Emergency Planning Committee is representations around all of Westwood, including local businesses. So that's a good committee. The Long Range Financial Planning Committee has been updated. Emily Parks was appointed to that at your last committee,
Yep.
but
Right.
that's what it looks like as a whole. We're skipping the next two. OPED Liability Task Force will need to meet because they'll have to do evaluation this year or 2018.
And we got to drop John Antonucci and get Emily on there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep, so I'll fix that.
I think that got done the last time, you just didn't.
I just didn't update it on here. I'm assuming we are not reappointing the Public Safety Task Force.
No,
I
it's-
did, yeah,
no.
I didn't put anything for a conversation on there.
We're
so
dropping it.
That is gone. Recreation Commission, we just talked about. We can skip Regional Transportation. Roy London Committee, same thing. Everyone else highlighted with the addition of Chris Dodge. And Youth and Family Services, the students in red are just student members because they graduated. They were
We'll get new ones.
represented.
The
And
ones are right below,
the
right?
new,
Or are
they're technically not new. They were already on there. When the school year starts up, they may or may not have a few other students there, but it's pretty good. So
Does Danielle want more on the Youth and Family Services? I know that can be bigger.
they can have up to 20, according to their bylaws. I reached out to them when we started this reappointment process, and they seemed fine. But we can ask them again if they're
Just check in.
if they're interested.
I know they didn't want to be that big.
Yeah.
So how do we do this, Christine?
I make this list when you do your.
Yeah, what do you want us exactly to do?
So let's
Approval as presented.
You can do approval as presented, but for purposes, Michael Beaumont on the Cemetery Commission.
Okay,
Those are
I move
separate.
we appoint Michael Beaumont to the Cemetery Commission for a term ending June 30th.
2019. Just
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
because
Yep, to have them
it's
staggered.
staggered. Yeah.
So term ending June 30th, 2019.
I'll second.
Okay.
you wanna do?
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, skipping
The town boundaries from your
perambulation.
Stephen Springer.
Okay, I move we appoint Stephen Springer, who is a retired professional land surveyor, as our perambulator?
Yes.
Town perambulator. For a term ending 2040.
A lifetime appointment.
For a
Love
term-
that appointment.
In perpetuity.
When would you like it to end? Annual? Should we do it annually or?
You want to try? You can do 1 year and see.
Yeah,
Okay, why don't
let's
we do
How it
that for a
works, and
period,
then-
for a term ending June 30th, 2018?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
When we send him the appointment, let's ask him to set it up to do the preambulation, to do Westwood Park, to start him.
Okay.
I move that we appoint Paul Tusseri as an associate member of the Recreation Commission for a term ending June 30th, 2020.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I recommend we appoint Chris Dodge as a member of the Roy London Humanitarian Committee. We do those in 1 year?
These are 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah, to term ending June 30th, 2018.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then this list you can do as discussed.
I
So,
move we,
hold on, Nancy, I have just one thing before you do that. Christine, have you spoken to Brad Pendell? I just wonder now that he took the high school football coach, whether or not he's gonna stay on the Youth and Family Services.
but he's there as a
Until
professional.
2019. I can ask him.
Yeah, I just don't know if it would interfere, but,
But he's the student resource officer at the high
Correct.
school,
Yeah.
which puts him on this. So I think his professional police job
okay.
trumps.
I would say it should.
I wouldn't ask him. I think he should be on it in his role.
Okay.
I don't see how, unless and until we expand
Okay.
resource officer coverage at the high school.
Okay.
All right, so go ahead, Nancy. I'm
All
sorry.
right, so I'll do this in one fell swoop. I move that we reappoint those discussed as being highlighted in yellow in our materials, and we appoint all those listed that we haven't already approved as new appointments to the boards and commissions we have in our materials.
Those are in green?
And those are in green.
Okay, I'll second.
And all that I said, I did not say that, huh?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And with a notation that we skipped over historical commission, all the things we put on hold are on
Yeah.
hold.
The ones you skipped over with planning board, the one, their recommendations, the one that comes to mind that I think we may need sooner than the others is the housing partnership.
Because we need to meet.
The application that you signed that went into Department of Housing and Community Development, when it comes back, we'll need the housing partnership chair to sign
So
that.
that's Brian
And our
Gorman?
chair
What's
is,
the date of the next
our chair is currently Chris Powell.
Yeah, there's
so we
nobody
need to have
chair right now.
Right.
Do
I
we,
think I was co-chair with him.
do
You
we
are.
suspect that'll be before August 14th?
I don't know how quickly Department of Housing and Community Development are going to act, but we want to be ready as soon as they do act, because the apartments are ready to lease, and we'd like to get people in there as soon as possible and get it listed on our SHI. So we would
Let's-
want to be
why not
able
just do
to.
Just do that one.
I mean, okay, that's fine, go ahead.
I move that we approve the appointment of Michael McCusker as the Housing Partnership Representative and Brian Gorman as the alternate for a term ending
I think we usually do these
1 year.
1 year.
June 30th, 2018.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, are we good, Christine?
I'm good.
Okay. We have in our packets the regular meeting minutes from April 11th, April 25th, May 1st, May 8th, and May 15th.
I have a technical edit on the top of page 3, April 11th, second paragraph. And Hyde asked the T later. I think you'd strike the word the. Otherwise, oh. I just had a question while we're on it, to page 4, Mike. We had a motion about the Southwest Park and signing the permit. That would include the protocol for the emergency notifications that was to be done within 30 days. Did all that happen?
It did. Tom Lada and Deputy Reardon spoke, and they worked out a whole neighborhood notification
Did
system.
they?
I don't know if it's in writing. I
Should be.
will get it, though.
Should be in-
because I remember him calling and saying, "I am all set with Southwest."
No, we want it, we
Yeah.
want it in writing, and did we ever sign it? I was chair then. Does John sign it now? We haven't signed it, have we?
You didn't sign, did you sign?
May
Did
have
they sign it already?
I'll look.
We haven't seen
Yeah, well.
Okay, it's just a good reminder. I move that we,
I would assume that you would have signed it, we would have.
I don't remember
You
signing it.
don't remember signing it, okay.
no,
I'll look.
because I think I would have asked to see the,
I feel like they would have.
okay, you can follow up on it. I move we approve the minutes from April 11th as amended.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
I move approval of the April 25th minutes as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move we approve the May 1st minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move we approve the May 8th meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 16 on May 15th minutes, page 2. From the bottom, working up, 3 paragraphs up, M. Walsh stated that letting this license lapse again and that he needs the, to cooperate, not cooperate.
Yep.
I move approval of the minutes as amended.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What was it for minutes, right?
For regular session,
Catching
yeah.
up.
Any other regular business, Michael?
No regular business.
I have one item. It's been brought to my attention that there's a lot more airplane traffic going over Westwood, and would like you to look into whether or not planes have been rerouted over Westwood. I've heard rumor of that, that Norwood complained, and we're getting more of it here.
It's very loud. Mike and I have had this discussion. There's actually a neighbor who monitors it. And we believe, we don't have any representation on the Norwood Airport, right? And I believe,
Well, Dennis Cronin will,
He's appointed as the noise abatement. I don't know if he's
yeah,
invited
I don't
to
think
the
he's invited to
Norwood.
meetings, no.
Well, I
And
think-
I've heard that they've rerouted him over Westwood because the Norwood residents complained.
Really?
Yes, and if they, every single time that there's any plane landing, you know, other than a single or a double engine, it fly like right over my house, so I can see, especially on a Saturday morning.
I've got a lot going over my house now,
Saturday morning, you
too,
can
our area.
get a pretty good number.
get a number.
Yeah, I almost can, it's that low.
I'll look into it.
So can we put that on the
Yeah,
agenda for
but
next?
that was brought to our attention, at least, and I don't know how true it is, but somebody said, you know, we don't have any representation on that board, so if they change the flight paths,
We never know.
we never know, except from the noise.
Interesting.
Dennis had some sort of.
Mike knows, there's somebody in Westwood, Mike, who monitors that, right, in my neighborhood?
Dennis Cronin.
Dennis is one, there may be others.
Yeah,
Up on Lions Drive.
I don't think his name was Dennis, no, it was an older gentleman, he's been doing it for years.
Well, that's Dennis.
I think that's Dennis.
It's Dennis Cronin. If it's an older gentleman
Yeah.
doing it for years,
That's it.
it's Dennis
Okay.
Cronin.
Anything else? Anything else?
Nope.
Bill? Okay, at this time, the Board of Selectmen will be going into executive session to discuss two issues. One issue related to the negotiation of the potential transfer of real property, and one issue related to an employee contract negotiation with the town administrator, both of which would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governing body if discussions were in open session. The board will not be returning to open session. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn to executive session for the aforementioned reasons.
I'll second.
Mr. Walsh?
Aye.
Mrs. Hyde?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
When's our next meeting? Why don't you
Oh, I'm
say that?
sorry. Our next meeting is August 14th.